We won't go far without you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the April 30th, believe it or not, 2025 Portsmouth Town Council meeting tonight. Hopefully will be our final major budget hearing. I was going to name them all, but I'm not going to even bother trying tonight. So if we could all please join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our men and women in harm's way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. As a reminder, for those of you who weren't here the past couple of nights, we have emergency exits. The door you came in, one in the back corner to your left and one in the corner behind Mr. Reese. Should there be an emergency, please evacuate the building as quickly and safely as you can, and we will all meet across the street at the school department building until help arrives. So, Mr. Rayner, I believe tonight we are going to start with town council underneath expenditures.
That's correct. So if we go to page
Oh, roll
26.
call. We're all here. Go ahead.
Oh, we did it to her again.
Mr. Gleason,
Here.
Miss Blank, here. Ms. McDowell, Ms.
Here.
Patton, here. Mr. Piero,
Present.
Mr. Reese,
Here.
Mr. Hamilton.
I am here. All right.
sure?
I physically. Mr. Rayner.
Okay. If we can go to page 26, please. And so here we have the town council budget. The proposed FY26 town council budget reflects a total appropriation of $18,198, representing a 59.41% increase over the current fiscal year. This increase is driven by a long overdue realignment of counselor stipends, which have remained unchanged over the last 20 years. The proposed adjustment sets the total stipend line at $15,000, an amount that remains well below the average for similar sized communities across the state. The remaining $2,050 in operating costs supports longstanding community initiatives, the post-prom, the Portsmouth Education Foundation, and a small contingency line. These are recurring items and reflect consistent support levels from previous years. No other structural changes are proposed for fiscal year 26. While the percentage increase appears large, it is due entirely to the historically low base, and this applies to all the small budgets. The actual dollar impact is modest. For this budget, it's equivalent to just 0.02% in the town's total municipal budget. We respectfully request provisional approval of the fiscal year 26 town council budget in the amount of $18,198.
I have a question.
Mr. Reese.
Just a question. Why aren't the post-prom and some of the other things in civic support?
This has always been a council prerogative.
All right, it just seems like a counting
No,
fluke.
for years, we kept forgetting to put it in the budget. And then we would end up taking it out of the town council contingency fund. So it just kind of fell there afterwards because it's a council prerogative. We could move it to the civic support. It really doesn't
But
matter.
it's also something that the organizations don't necessarily put in the entire application for.
Right.
They just have requested it, and we've traditionally have just done it. The school committee does the same.
So we just carry on. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Tradition.
It's,
Also to elaborate on that, there is a rather extensive application process for civic support. So you have to submit your financial statement stuff, and teenagers don't have that.
any other questions? Ms. McDowell?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I personally feel that while I'm very grateful for the substantial raise, I think it really, the perception of this 72.41 on the budget is not good. You know, people don't understand, and I would be very willing to go a 4% like most people in this budget are for this year. Simply because of perception, and maybe next year we can have another 4% or something, but I just don't think it looks good. So I would like to make a motion that we changed that to a 4%.
Just,
I-
this was a vote by the council
Last
year.
Right.
Yes.
Right. I mean, we could change that vote, correct?
That's up to the president, vice president.
You, you're more
You
than
don't have to.
welcome to. I mean, I will tell you, I've been doing it for a long time. This really doesn't even put us on par with other councils. It is entirely up to, if the council doesn't want to take, if you want to donate the money back, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
I'd just like to say, it's not a cost of living increase based on, it's based on the fact that, I don't know, it's probably been 20 years since they did anything.
It's been more than 20 years.
And this is on par with what the water board pays.
It's,
And it's not a great sum of money.
it is not, but.
But it's
I-
nowhere
I-
on par with what other districts,
Yeah.
friends of mine and other councils make. Given, I don't do this, trust me, I'm not quitting my job doing this.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's not the $40,000 that people think we make.
Yes, exactly. It's not
Tell
the
people what we
argument
make.
of,
Yeah,
It's
it's,
like 22 grand, it's like 20.
it's currently $21 a week is what you get
Yeah.
paid.
That pays for the, that
Yeah,
pays
just-
for the ink.
Just for clarification, Mr. Rayner, it's $1,100 per year?
It's
$1,200?
1,200 for counselors, 15
And-
for a president.
And what are we going to?
Three and four,
Three?
2 and 4, 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Okay. Is that what
So
we settled
I
on
think
last year?
that explains to the public that 72% of nothing gets you a little bit more.
Well, I understand what we're getting, but I just, it's perception out there and.
But Mary, what
you
you
know.
did, what you did is great. You got it out in the public right now by this discussion. This is transparency. You explained it. You
Well, I
explained it.
didn't.
Now you know
explain
what it
But
is.
anyways,
All right.
so we can vote it down. I'd like to make a motion that we reduce it to 4%, our increase. Get a second, I don't get a second. That's all right.
Can I ask what the difference would be?
It would basically take the 8,700, you would you would make an
You would go-
extra
$24
$24, yeah.
a year.
No, it would be,
No.
it was 48
So it's $1,200
and
at
4%,
4%, sorry, so
$48 more.
$48.
So you'd make $1,248.
$12.48.
So you would make $22 a week instead of
I-
21.
Less.
I would like to just add in the conversation. Part of this is I want to get the best candidates for the town of Portsmouth. And to be more on par, I think will help bring in candidates.
I'm not sure $800 is.
I don't know. It's not, honest to God, I took it at the old rate, never knowing they were gonna do this. And I
That
would,
would-
I would have done it for nothing.
Well, the info was probably online then.
No, I had no
All right.
idea.
Yes, that's all right.
Okay.
No second, that's fine.
Is there a motion to provisionally approve the town council budget at $18,198?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-1 with Ms. McDowell opposed. Next, we have the town administrator's budget.
Okay, the proposed FY 26 town administrator budget totals $376,161, reflecting a net decrease of 2.26% compared to the current fiscal year. This reduction is driven primarily by changes in personnel costs. The administrator's salary and benefits reflect contractual increases. However, the longevity payment previously included is no longer applicable to the next fiscal year. And the administrative assistant line reflects a vacancy followed by a lower cost backfill. The stipend line has also been removed and overtime remains flat at $5,000. Operational expenses remain minimal and relatively flat. Dues and reference materials total $10,886 in fiscal year 26, which includes continued membership in the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, the International Community Managers Association, and subscriptions to the Newport Daily News and the Providence Journal. Office supply costs are held steady, and the town hall security line item has been removed as the camera that was purchased has been installed, and that project was completed last year. There are no programmatic changes, structural changes proposed in this budget, and we are requesting provisional approval of $376,161 for the town administrator's fiscal year 26 budget.
Mr. Reese.
Okay, no, I had a question on the dues and membership. And one of them is for the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns. And that's $8,648 a year. I do not feel that they serve in sufficient capacity to merit this amount of funding. The most recent proposal we got from them contained a plan to work around the 4% tax cap, which would harm all residents. So I make a motion to eliminate this funding, saving residents $8,600. Do or don't? All right. But that's.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think before we stop the funding, maybe we have Rhode Island League and Cities of Town come in and explain to them what they're doing for us. I don't necessarily disagree with you. And a lot of what the leagues of cities and towns does is for the inner cities or inside in 295 belt, other than Woonsocket, which falls outside. of
I
it.
haven't seen anything that they've done, and then they had that big presentation, and buried within that, if you really read it, was something that would harm us.
And there are other things that they're doing to
And
help
that's
us.
just the tip of the iceberg. That's, I'm against this.
Mr. President, if you don't, if
Ms.
I may,
Mayo.
I would also, I agree with the president that I don't necessarily agree with everything that the organization does. But at the same time, if we're going to be looking at it in dollars and cents, they are the lobbying group for municipalities. And if you're not ready to be part of the organization, be ready to fork up $5,000 for a lobbyist when we do have initiatives that we do want to pass at the State House. And that's going to be much more expensive than the membership fee that we currently pay.
$4,000 or $5,000 for a lobbyist
A month.
a month. Well,
At a
you
year
don't need
contract.
somebody there every month. I mean, it's.
No, that's, as a person that's married to a lobbyist, that's the going rate for a lobbyist in the state.
That's if we need it.
Congratulations, there are the lobbyists for municipality. We may not agree wholeheartedly with what they said, but as members, I think that the recourse that the president is laying out of having them come up in front of us and hear out our concerns is a much more worthwhile time as a member that's inside the circle, instead of being outside the circle, yelling in and then getting absolutely nothing accomplished.
You can always join it afterwards. I mean, nothing would preclude you from that.
I hope that I. can
No,
be the
I'm just
president
saying,
and join it
I just,
afterwards,
from what
but
I've
when-
seen so far, it's nothing I would spend my money on, and I'm just trying to look out for the taxpayers.
Hopefully.
The one
in 2
thing we
years, but
saw, and it is mostly inner city stuff.
I,
All right.
Ms. McDowell?
Mr. Rayner, do you want to weigh in on this, seeing it's under your budget?
This is your call, but I agree. If you're not part of the system, you're outside the system. There isn't everything that they do is not always going to align with everybody's views. They've got a herd 39 cats. But overall, this is the only advocating organization that represents all 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island. I was a former executive board member. I'm still a member and I still attend the meetings. I think this is a good thing, but this is your budget.
Ms. Fenton?
I have a question. Is this just in your budget or are we paying them additional in other budgets?
Nope, this is where the dues are
The only
located.
one. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Grieve, you have a question?
Would you be willing to have them come in and tell us what
Absolutely.
they do for us? Because I want to see, at least
Absolutely.
to see that. you know?
I will happily call
'Cause
Ross and ask
if
him. to set
not,
up
you know,
time.
this could be there last year.
Tom Grieve, 110 Third Drive. And I understand the argument about you've got to be part of the group. But and the dues and membership of $10,000 is not unreasonable for the town administrator. My problem is with the League of Cities and Towns. The league supposedly represents municipal interests at the state level. This year, they initiated legislation that would erode the 4% tax cap that is far from being in the interest of Portsmouth. Worse still, and this is my real problem, they sent us a resolution they wanted us to pass saying Portsmouth supports their legislative initiatives. But nowhere in the resolution or their website did they reveal the true nature of those legislative initiatives. I applaud the council for realizing the problem and making no motion to support the resolution. We should not reward such behavior by giving the league taxpayer money for a membership. Please send a message that this behavior was unacceptable. The league is supposed to support initiatives that further the interests of the municipalities they represent, not the political initiatives of the state legislature, which is what they were doing. Please vote to strike this membership from the town's fiscal year 26 budget. And that doesn't mean you can't go back in next year, but it's just, I'm for sending them a strong message, much as we did to AIPC by defunding them for a year and having them come in and explain what they were doing and why they wouldn't have this type of behavior again. I think that's the way to handle the league. I wrote this honestly, what, 3 months ago or so, whenever that came up. Because I was just that upset with how they did that. That was just as misleading as it could have been. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Green. But just one thing though, specifically on that, they weren't supporting the legislature. That was other cities and towns who are struggling with their budgets, asking to have a way to go over the cap that's easier than going to the General Assembly. So, it's
Again,
wrong
this
either way.
was specific to
Yeah.
the housing. And it was a way
Mhm.
in which they could do the housing and have the taxpayer pay for it, which is what the legislature wanted, not what the towns wanted. Thank you.
But again, this League of Cities and Town is made up of mayors, town council presidents, and town administrators. They voted to support that legislation.
Quite frankly, I don't know whether they understood the legislation because it wasn't on their website. It wasn't explained with the resolution that just asked you to support.
They understood what they were doing.
Okay.
Trust me.
I'll take your
They
word.
knew what they were doing. They just obfuscated it.
Okay.
Mr. Fitzmaurice.
Thank you, Mr. President. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. Were you saying, Mr. President, that the individual members of the league were the ones who were advocating for this change in the tax cap law?
The executive board supported it. That's why it was in their resolution and their package of legislative priorities.
Okay.
So, yes,
It was-
the
It was
Executive
House
board.
Bill 5793, and in their documents, in their, shall we say, not for public distribution, that legislative agenda identified that bill. And they also identified a couple of other things that we didn't talk about that are also bad ideas. One of which was expanding the zoning areas in which you could put speed cameras to collect more money for your municipality, which is something this town does not do.
I'm sure that was put in by East Providence or Providence.
And I think you're probably right. And that's a reflection of how this organization seems to work. I'm not an expert on it, but if you look through their agendas, their legislative agenda, you see the priorities that the organization as a whole is pursuing. Mr. Rayner's correct. We shouldn't expect to have full compliance and agreement with all the things that are in their agenda. But we shouldn't also look at a list in which we don't agree with hardly anything on it. And that's the issue. And that's what I found when I looked at it. We're concerned for the moment about the tax cap law. We don't know whether this thing is going to pass or not, 5793. However, this is a big deal. And they deceived us about whether or not that was going to be a primary issue. And we wouldn't have found out about it if it hadn't been, as we said previously, Catherine Gregg's article in the Providence Journal, in which she interviewed the new executive director. So, I read this proposed resolution that they sent to us, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. And I might point out, if you look carefully through the correspondence, you will find one asking the town of Portsmouth to support this resolution in support of the legislative agenda for the league from Burrowville. Do any of you know anybody on the council in Burrowville? There isn't a chance in hell they would have done that if they'd have read it and then seen what was actually in it. So I would suggest respectfully that they were deceived as well. But it's only by random chance that we found out about this. And I consider that to be a major deception. And we need to send a message to them that we don't accept that kind of stuff. Now, we already did, the council already did what they should have done. But when we start withdrawing for the short term or, pulling back our revenue, we start to send the real message to them. As an organization, they want to keep all 39 cities and towns unified in their organization, because that's the basis of their arguments when they go up as lobbyists to the assembly. So when you go up, if you say, well, I used to have 39 and now I've got 38 or 34 or 31, then obviously you don't want to tell anybody that. So it's something they want to do. And we thought that that was where we should attack this point. But we shouldn't be spending money, even though 8,640, that's the number, right? That we're sending to them. At any rate, when we send that kind of money, it's a small amount of money in the budget taken as a whole. Although it's about what one family would pay for some of the better homes in town. So in any case, and lobbying, I understand the lobbying ideas. I've worked with lobbyists, but the problem is that the League of Cities and Towns is lobbying for the big cities. They're not lobbying for us. Nobody told us from the League of Cities and Towns, as far as I know, we got no letters, no correspondence about the fact that the state government was going to take over all of our zoning code. That's something they should have done. They should have come down here and waved the battle flag for us and represented our interests up there.
In their defense, I
Mhm.
believe that was a last minute loop around that the speaker threw in. I don't think it was something that was put in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, but you also know that that's the way they do business up there.
Understood, but I, in their defense, I think it was a last minute and that they were probably blindsided as well, but
But they should have gone to, they could have gone in with a bill to repeal it and they didn't do that.
I don't disagree with your argument.
I just think that this is something that the town council.
Here's
should
what we can
support,
do.
And I'm asking for votes to pass it. Thank you.
Here's what we can do. We can leave the money in the budget. We can hold payment until they come down and explain to us how they're gonna help Portsmouth specifically. And if they don't come down, they don't get paid. Is that a good compromise?
Are you saying to hold what's in the budget until?
Leave it in the budget
Yeah,
and we request that they come down and explain exactly how they're gonna help the town of Portsmouth and earn their $8,600. And if they can't or won't do that, that includes the executive director and the chairman, then we don't give them the money.
I don't want to rewrite
Larry,
Mr.
how do you
Reese's
do
bill.
that? I mean.
How do you do that?
is
We just don't send them the check.
In other words.
Until they come here.
I have somebody's word that isn't gonna happen. Okay.
Until
I
you
think
see
that we
the
should-
executive director standing where Mr. Fitzmaurice is standing, they don't get a check. It's as simple as that. If the council makes that motion, Ms. Marston doesn't send them a check.
But
Well, we should still
let me answer
Still
the
have the
question you asked me.
say yea or nay after they speak.
Sure.
Whether we want their services or.
Yes, but if
Yeah,
we
big
take it out of the
level.
budget, we don't have the chance. We don't have the choice.
No.
So
I
I
think
don't
the
want to belabor
motion,
this anymore because we're talking about $8,600.
let me answer the question you asked me. And that is your thought, whether I thought it's a good idea. As long as Mr. Reese thinks it's a good idea, but I think it should be connected to membership as well as dues withdrawal, because they'll continue to pretend that we're still in there because they don't really care that much about $8,700.
I think they do.
I think they care about our membership a lot more than they do the money. So I think it should be connected to membership as well. Thank you.
Jackie, you have a comment on this? Thank you.
I just want to make something clear that the league happens to be a resource for not only our town administrator, but every Wednesday they offer educational enrichment for clerks and for other people. You can go online, you can see what kind of services they're offering. How many of us attended the conference? And how many were enriched by any of the educational programs that they had there? So this is a resource not only for our town administrator, but it is something that is used throughout the staff as well.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, so if we have a motion, can we have a motion to provisionally approve the town administrator's budget at $376,161 provisionally? We'll start with it. Okay. Is there a second? It just,
Second,
Motion on the floor already.
no, Mr. Reese didn't get a second. So there's a second.
second.
If we will vote on this, and then we'll have a secondary vote to withhold the payment
All right,
until there is, all right?
okay.
Let's take care of the budget situation first, then we'll take care of our anger afterwards. All right, so all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, I would entertain a motion to withhold the dues to the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns until the executive director and staff come down and give a satisfactory presentation as to what our dues are paying for.
Second.
No, so moved.
So moved, okay.
Then a second.
Second.
Thank you.
No.
All those in
Can
favor?
we have a discussion on?
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't want to belabor it too much, but I think making it satisfactory, I think that word is dangerous into the motion. Because they can come down here and if that's the motion, we don't like what they have to say, but we accepted the fact that they actually did come down. Then we're doing a litmus test on them actually coming.
I guess it didn't go in the motion per se, but I did,
No, that's
No,
what he said.
I
He
did say
said it.
satisfactory. A
Okay.
satisfactory
Okay.
presentation.
gotcha.
If you want to remove the word satisfactory, I don't care. I think it's implied. That if they come up and stand there, there may be more than 4 votes that say, guys, I don't see what you're doing for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Similar to when Mr. Johnson gets up and tries to explain to what the AIPC has done for us. So. Ms. Blank?
I'd just like to add that I enjoyed going to the training seminars, the trust that Charlene and Mary, we
The
had.
trust of the League of Cities and Towns, different organization. Sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-2. There have been other seminars that have been put on by the League of Cities and Towns. I attended one on educational funding, but
Yeah, I have gone to those and.
5-2.
No.
Ms. Blank
no.
and Mr. Piero. You're welcome. Page 28, Town Clerk's budget. Madam Clerk. Okay, I said Madam Clerk and she didn't answer.
Yes, Mr. President.
Oh, there she is. There you are. How you feeling?
I'm coming along.
Good.
All right, so we're already there. Page 28, 29 is the town clerk budget. This budget for the next fiscal year is proposed at $541,530, representing a 4.57% increase over the adopted FY 25. Primary drivers in this budget include salary adjustments, which reflect a 4% cost of living adjustments in the updated collective bargaining agreement that was agreed to last January. Benefit costs include increases to payroll taxes, health and dental insurance, and 401 retirement contributions, and those all reflect current employee participation and updated insurance rates. These changes are formula-driven and align with enrollment data. With respect to the operations budget, advertising increases by $9,000. This is driven by expanded public notice requirements and more robust legal posting needs. Printing increases by $4,900 to support the expanded town council request for copies and distribution. Probate judge compensation rises $9,410, which is aligned with the municipal judge rate following Judge Lopes's retirement and the projected appointment of a new judge effective July 1st. Document processing for code ordinance updates remains level at $15,000 to support annual E-code services. And e-permitting software license costs have increased to $2,900 based on vendor updates. Some notable changes. The short-term rental compliance services have been moved out of the town clerk's budget. And you will see that now funded in the planning department budget beginning next year. General operational supplies, i.e. office supplies, miscellaneous expenses, and postage has been adjusted based on current usage and the new mailing machine quarterly fees. It is important to note that some expenditures in this department, and this exists throughout the rest of the budget, such as printing, advertising, document processing, and others, are inherently nonlinear, with costs concentrated in specific months or at specific points in the budget year. Year-to-date underspending does not necessarily equate to excess capacity, as these funds support critical services and obligations that occur at various times in the fiscal year. The town clerk's office continues to manage all clerk records, agendas, and minutes, licensing and permitting services, vital record maintenance, code updates and public documentation management, and land evidence recording and archiving. We are requesting provisional approval of $541,530 for the town clerk's office budget for fiscal year 26.
Mr. Piero.
Mr. Rayner, I don't see an issue with the budget as a whole. It's more of a clarifying question. Why has the print for an office that prints so much? Why has the amount for, and given, I think that the number that it's being changed to is more realistic for the size of its, the size of the office and what it actually does. Why has it been historically so low?
Mr. Rayner,
You're not.
Thank you.
In years past, the council passed a motion to become a paperless council. Printing costs have gone through the roof.
And
So
a
that,
lot of the other printing that the clerk's office does is paid for by the entity that comes to get those copies.
Okay.
so those numbers, that's just for the count, that's what you're predicting for the council printing, an additional almost $5,000.
At the rate of, it's quite expensive. It's not cheap to make copies.
I do plenty at home.
Mr. Fitzmaurice?
Thank you, Mr. President. Larry Fitzmaurice. Real quickly, I was reading the charter the other day and it says the clerk's office is required to print the provisional budgets presented at the budget hearing. We haven't been doing that in the last few years. So the printing is required by the charter and should be exempt from any kind of effort to try and reduce printing costs, which I applaud. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
we do print them at the budget
Can we raise
budget
the
hearing
volume
in
on her,
June.
please?
Madam Clerk, can you say that again? I believe you did say you do print them for the budget hearing at the middle school.
At the June meeting, yes.
Yes. Which is, well, has been at the middle school typically. Okay.
So Mr. Fitzmaurice is absolutely correct. We're required to print the provisional budget. We don't have a provisional budget yet.
We have a motion to
Question,
approve.
one question, just because of the conversation, the printing costs. Basically, we're printing for any request from the council at cost. I mean, it's not a markup of 15 cents per copy like the general public.
No.
Correct? Yeah.
No, this is at cost. The toner cartridges are quite
Yeah.
expensive. We've gone to cheaper machines, but the service cost of the copier, the toner costs, just the cost for the paper is all risen.
Thank you.
I have a motion to provisionally approve the town clerk's budget at $541,530.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have the canvassing budget at $315,491.
Correct, pages 30 and 31. So that 315,491 represents a 1.51% decrease from the current fiscal year. This reflects a rebalancing of election year costs following the presidential election cycle in fiscal year 25 and a shift toward planning and compliance work ahead of the 2026 primaries and general election. With respect to personal costs, salary and benefit costs increased by 8.95% and 4.54% respectively, largely due to contractual collective bargaining agreement increases for the registrar and clerk positions and required benefit contributions. Poll worker compensation is now budgeted as a separate line item at $11,425. This line was previously embedded within election expenses and is being repositioned to support any potential off-cycle special elections. If no special election occurs in FY26, then our intent is that the funds would remain in a restricted account for future use for election support. With respect to operations, overall operations decreases by 36.4%, reflecting a $24,700 decrease in election expenses compared to the previous fiscal year. Adjustments to printing, postage, and rental costs that better reflect the scale of non-presidential election needs in fiscal year 26, and increases in small equipment and training to improve office readiness and support staff development ahead of 2026. Other notable items, the Canvassing Authority did vote to increase board stipends for 2026, for FY26 as follows. The chair, $700, $600 for each of the two members, and $500 each for the two alternates. Also, funding for compliance-related training and conferences remains in line with the State Board of Election mandates, ensuring preparedness and certification for key election personnel. While election costs spike in presidential and statewide general election years, fiscal year 26 represents a stabilization year. The budget focuses on maintaining voter services, fulfilling state and federal election compliance, and preparing for the 2026 statewide primaries and general elections. We are requesting provisional approval of $315,491 for the canvassing office.
Ms. Patton, you have a question?
I do. I just have a question on the dues and subscriptions. If we could just find out what that is for.
What are your dues and subscriptions going towards? So
My dues, I belong to the election center, and I belong to the Rhode Island Town and City Clerks Association. We have quarterly meetings. These subscriptions go to that.
All right, so there's an increase coming up for dues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, I increased it because of, we now have a certification program for election officials here in Rhode Island. And I had to increase it in the event that the clerk who is in my office needs to become a member of these organizations as well. Yes.
Mr. Reese? Question?
Yes, I have another question. Mr. Rainey may have covered this, but I didn't think much of what he said, if it's true. I see in there, it looks like we're planning for a special election or an election, and there are no elections scheduled. What she requested on nonpartisan, she's going to put on a regular scheduled election,
Or the next special election,
Or the
if there
next-
is one.
but we don't have one scheduled.
We
Got
don't.
the budget for it.
And I
There-
don't see why we should be putting almost $50,000 on hold. Because if you add up the police detail, the OT, this is all in there, poll workers and the election expense. That comes close to between $48,000 and $50,000 that we're taking out of the taxpayers' pockets now for something that we don't have anything scheduled for.
In 2015, sir, Senator,
No, Congressman.
no, it was a senator.
No, Senator Aniano.
Senator Audiano resigned in October. I had to come to this council and request funding for a special election. They had to scramble. This was in October. So to plan for the possibility, and it's not just this town council who can call a special election. Special elections can occur for a variety of reasons. It is prudent for us to be planning and have that funding available and in the budget. If it's not used, it's not used. It goes right back into the, whatever,
Yeah, the plan would
you
be-
decide.
But by the same token, it's in the fund balance if we need it. We've got $12 million in there right now in the fund balance. So if we needed that, that was according to the order. I don't think there's any reason to be parking small amounts of money in different places just so she can have it. We could get it for them. We're right here. We just do this afterwards.
Okay, well,
I mean,
You,
that's
you,
ju-
you don't have to sell me on these things. I mean, I have zero reason to pay an extra $1,400 for board members who don't
And
support
how
initiatives
is-
of the
in
council.
that case, how's
But-
the money being invested? I mean, if we have it in the fund balance, we can, we've got it in our main pot.
Well, it's gonna go back in the fund balance if it's not utilized. If
But
you
that's
want. to-
after a
if-
year of
if-
it sitting there.
If you can sit back and honestly say, we're not gonna have a special election, and you want to take out that $40,000, you are free to make a motion at provisional approval at $275,491.
But the
you-
money would be available though, if we needed it. Because
It wouldn't be available. The council would have to
We'd
say,
have a
we would have to
meeting.
take it out of our,
we take it out of the fund
We'd have
balance
to
of
take it out
$12
of
million,
Correct.
which wouldn't make much difference. And fund them then. And then we've got.
it doesn't make a difference to the amount of money we have in there. But if we begin to go into a budget process of, if we need a lot of money, we'll just keep raiding our piggy bank. That could negatively
This
reflect
is
on
not
our,
based.
Right, the
Our-
thought
our
process here,
bond.
just much like we do for the harbor master boat, or the police boat. The thought process here is to mitigate those spikes in elections. So, every 2 years we have an election, sometimes we have a special election, the general election usually is quite expensive. So just to mitigate those spikes in the budgeting. So if there's no special election, this money could be used for the next scheduled election and all the training that will be associated with that and help alleviate the budget pressure in the next fiscal budget. That's what the attempt is.
if the 50 is not there this year, you're creating a small structural deficit in her department next year. Where you would have, rather than I'm gonna pick a number, 12% increase, it would be more towards the 24% increase in this budget alone.
I would also advise in the event that there is a special election that Ms. Schultz has to then come in front of the council when she's on a timeline imposed by state law. Although we're meeting roughly every 2 weeks, but God forbid.
You
it's
could have a special meeting
I'm
just
sorry,
for that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Reese, I didn't bother you.
No, but I'm just saying.
Especially during this like asinine conversation about 50K. And so we are talking about supplying $50,000 for a process that has happened in this state multiple times. It is going to happen because of a resolution that this council has already done is going to trigger another election that will happen simultaneously. She's on a 90-day shot clock that is imposed by state law. Say we're on the special election is called the Tuesday immediately after this council. It doesn't meet for 3 weeks, so God forbid. Normally it's 2 weeks, but it happens 3 weeks. Now we're on a 21 minus days onto that thing. So now she has to come to this council, beg and plead for something that should structurally be in the budget for the same situation in which Mr. Hamilton just explained.
So every year this should be in there.
Yes,
It is in there every year.
it's
Okay.
there every year.
Alright.
Shit happens.
It just, it
Alright.
lessens the,
Alright.
it's similar to when you get to the tax collector's
Alright.
budget, there is a line item in there for, whatchamacallits. Matt, help me out. Evaluations.
Alright.
Each year there's one put in there. So that way, rather than a $300,000 bump the year we have to do a big evaluation, there's always 100 going in.
Okay, I
Alright.
didn't understand that, I guess.
But
Alright.
it helps avoid some small structural deficits.
Mhm.
I would, however, request that the council remove the $1,400 pay raise that the Board of Canvassers voted for themselves.
I would like to clarify that. They didn't vote for a whole lot. I will tell you exactly what they got paid. It's in my worksheets.
I understand.
And the $1,000 of that is to pay for bipartisan, our alternates who work very hard on these elections. They are there. They have been appointed, let me see, they were appointed in 2020 and 2021, and they have been working all of these years without anything. And back in 2024, they voted to include them and to slightly increase something that has not, again, been increased for 20 years.
That's understood. Let me explain my rationale for it. And you and I've had this discussion before.
And we're not going to agree, however, they are valuable
I
people, but
understand.
you say that the comment that you made that they don't do anything.
I didn't say they don't do anything. I said they haven't done anything that the council to support this council in initiatives that this council has had, including trying to align the clerk's office and the canvassing office as was requested in the 2016 special election when the clerk's office was created as a nonpartisan office. So the Board of Canvassers has fought that all the way. So my request would be, once they come back and help support this town in saving money on clerks' expenses overall, that they should not receive a pay raise. And I am amazed that we had a 10-minute discussion about a 72% increase, but nobody said boo about a 93% increase.
Because that now includes, instead of 3 people, it includes 5 people, and they are bipartisan, and they work
Understood,
diligently, sir.
understood.
And their reasoning, I have the letter from 2023 where they reviewed that request to you. And it is in accordance with the town charter. They reviewed the DIJ management consultant services and the state laws. And it's in the letter, and that's their reasoning behind that. It's unfortunate that this council seeks so much to replicate what's going on in other communities that they can't see what is actually working in their own community. We work very hard in the canvassing office. It's not just every other year or whenever there is an election. There's a lot of stuff going on, sir.
I understand there's a lot of stuff going on, but there's also a lot of stuff going on in the rest of the building, and having the utilization as put forth in that survey and that study would help this town save money. And there has not been a willingness of the Board of Canvassers to help with that. And I don't see where they can vote themselves a $1,400 raise when they're not willing to help the town save funds in other ways.
Well, we're going to have to disagree on that.
Understood. And if I don't get a motion, they'll get their raise.
Can I ask another
Ms. Pat.
question? Furniture, they're asking for $3,000 more, but nothing was used at all for the previous year.
I have presented a plan for the renovations of our office. We've also had an independent security analysis done, and we are still waiting to work on that. And there were priorities in this building that went ahead of the canvassing office, so we were unable to implement any of the plan.
So we did, without disrupting the building too much, if you've been upstairs for the past couple months, it's been a zoo. That project, that realignment of offices is now nearing completion. And then the focus will be on renovating these 2 spaces behind you here, which will provide the secure storage and secure space that is required by state mandate for election security, and also provide more office space for town hall.
Ms. McDowell.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding, I know that you explained something about the transferring lines in the election expenses, but I saw that 37,000 was budgeted in 2025 for election expenses, but didn't see it on the March financial report update. So was that changed to another, or?
So what we ended up doing was, instead of doing 1099s, they are now W-2s. So to align it, we put that now into the salary portion as opposed to operational expenses. So if you look at the March 2025 report, if you actually look at non-employee personnel, that's where you'll find the
So
18,000.
it like switched to line, a
Correct.
category, right?
Correct. Yes,
Alright.
just to align it correctly.
Thank you.
Any other questions for canvassing?
Yes,
Ms. Blank?
I've had my light on since the beginning.
That's okay.
Question on the poll workers. How many total poll workers would this budget approximately cover?
For this, I did a, combination of polls. Excuse me.
No, take your time.
For a special election requested by. The worksheet included. Okay. So it was a total 12, 30 poll workers for a combined polling precincts of 1, 2, 3, 4 precincts and alternates.
And just help me understand the reasoning compared to the actuals incurred of 17,000, where your budget is approximately 11,000. Is it due to the number of poll workers?
You
Alright,
got,
we're-
because you had a presidential election, so you had presidential primaries.
That's
and
what I figured.
Other,
There's
Right.
more.
There were more elections. This one, the one that you have in front of you for FY 26 is just for one special election. So if we had something that required 2 special elections, we would still be in a deficit. But this is for one that allows me to combine polls.
And does this rate align with past special elections? Like that number of poll workers, that's,
It's determined, the number of poll workers is determined by the number of voters, and that is determined by the Board of Elections. They give us a recommendation for the number of poll workers that are required.
okay, thank you very much.
has there been any other discussion at the State House in order to help you trim down the number of polling places that you have?
There is
Especially the mail-in.
legislation currently presented that will allow the cap to be higher than what it is right now. The Board of Elections has been very accommodating when we do have special elections, and our Board of Canvassers requests to be able to combine the polls. However, there's a lot of awful things that are happening right now in elections, as well, you know, and they're very costly. But the board is committed to maintaining this budget. And that's what budgeting is. We will shift things around. We will move things around. I will beg and plead, and I will apply for any grants that I can, which is what we always do, to alleviate some of the burden that it is. Because honestly, we're on the hook for elections no matter what. And that's why we try to give you a transparent budget that plans for things. Because honestly, things happen all the time, and they're happening constantly. And we want to be prepared. I will explore. I go to every free educational program that there is available. And the board members go with me. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we're going to another certification seminar in the morning. The training is necessary. We're committed to this budget. We're committed to staying within the guidelines. I've only had to come to you once for additional funding, and that was for a special election that was not planned for.
Just for my knowledge, how many, what was the percentage of people that voted before the election in town
Oh.
hall here?
There were more people that voted early voting
Right.
than there were who voted on election day.
And is that?
52% of the Portsmouth population that voted on the 20 days prior to the
And was
election.
that somewhat consistent across the state, which would lead to the argument that we don't need as many polling places based on population?
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
We've got the numbers. We've
Okay.
given them numbers. They're not paying attention to us. They're, the advocacy for the voters, the ACLU, are worried that voters will not have the opportunity to vote. And that's why they're reluctant to reduce the number of
They actually
polling
have more
locations.
opportunities to vote now than.
They have more opportunities and they like them better. Most people like early voting.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason, question?
Yes, before we get to a provisional number here, I would like to just try to come to a happy medium. I was here in 2016, but 9 years ago, I don't remember the argument that,
There was a study done that and was voted on by, well, part of that study was voted on by the citizens that removed the clerk's office from being an elected position to being an appointed position.
Okay,
Having that
Gotcha.
pulled apart allowed that office to be able to assume other responsibilities, including canvassing, which would bring all those offices together, which would help somewhat streamline where,
it was supposed to be cross-training.
correct.
Yeah.
Where
Okay, I remember now.
the regular clerks in the town clerk's office could also do voter registration. The deputy clerk would then assume the canvassing position, and we would have a more efficient and potentially a smaller budget for those two offices.
Okay. And are there other towns that are doing this now that you're aware of?
This is where, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to breathe. Everybody wants to be another town. Please take a look at what you have. Please. And appreciate it, because honestly, I am able to do a lot more. And I really do appreciate. I mean, I was part of that study. I remember that study as well. He wanted me to be the deputy clerk. That's what he wanted me to be. And I can't, according to the charter.
My only concern was whether it's legal or not legal to do what we try to do.
It
That's
is.
all.
It's exactly legal. It is the ideal. And if you talk to anybody in the Board of Elections or at the Secretaries of State's office, we're doing it right.
So, what I would like to do is try to come up to a happy medium here that we, and I make a motion that we actually pay the two alternates the $500 and we eliminate the raises for the chair and the two other members. If any would consider a second on that.
If that were the case, then the two alternates would be getting paid more than the actual members.
The other members make less than 500 now.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, the chair gets $400 now. This is all in this is given in open meetings on January 21st. And one of your council members was actually there and given a copy of this. So currently, the chair gets $450. Each member gets $400. They get paid twice a year. It's half of it's paid in June, the other half is in December.
Okay.
The alternates were getting absolutely nothing.
So I
These-
would like to give the alternates something. So I'd like to change my motion to giving the alternates $400 apiece,
So now they are equivalent to members.
equivalent to your members. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize that they were going to be above them.
I find that disrespectful.
So the motion is to deny the raises to the chair and the two members and to give the two alternates $400 each as payment under election expenses.
No, it's fine. So
It was just,
Mr. Gleason's motion would change the board members' stipends from $2,900 to
$2,100.
$2,100. And then would change the bottom line budget to $314,691, if I did that math correctly, yes. Is that your motion, Mr. Gleason?
Yes, it is.
Is there a second? The final number would be 314,691. Which would fund stipends for the alternates and leave the chair and the existing members' stipends at the same level. Ms. Patton?
Can I just say something? I don't have a problem seconding his motion, but I feel more comfortable giving them given what they're asking for and taking the 1,000 away from the furniture or something, you know, I just feel that, I don't know.
Honestly, how you treat people
I rather give,
is important.
yeah,
These people give their all to perform the elections that you need to sit in those seats.
And as do our zoning members and our planning board members.
And I
school
understand
committee
that.
members, and they all get paid less.
They
School
do.
Committee. No, they don't get paid at all.
And it's not the question. It's how are you treating people? Come on.
Understood.
Now, we rely on people. Elections don't happen without people.
So I'm not sure if I can make another motion if his motion gets.
His motion hasn't gotten a second yet. If you would like to make a different motion, that's fine.
So I mean, I'd rather make a motion giving the board members the additional $1,400 and just taking that away from the furniture, if it's that big of a deal.
I don't think it's about money.
Well, I mean, that's,
Yeah, I know. It's not.
that will, you know,
So, may I, if I understand it, you would leave the $2,900 in, but remove the $3,000 furniture.
No. No, it would remove 1,400 from the furniture line, so it would make the furniture line
Okay, gotcha.
$3,600.
Okay, thank you.
The
Yep.
$1,600 increase. Am I doing the math right? Yes.
That's fine. I would second that motion.
thinking.
I have a question then.
Mr. Bayero.
If we're gonna be doing this, Michelle, the $5,000, what type of furniture do you need?
I need cabinets to store things. As a matter of fact, we have some tentatively on order. I haven't heard anything about those. But my plan has not been approved. And we
What does
do,
cabinets cost?
what were they,
So
1,400?
They're above the purchasing policy, so we need 3 quotes. So they're above 1,580.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Motion is to approve. Let's see. No, it doesn't approve the full amount. So what's the amount come down to? You remove the $1,400, so we come down to $314,091 would be the new bottom line budget with
So which item are you reducing now?
furniture line is reduced to $3,600.
Small offices and furniture.
Yeah, the
Okay.
one that said 5,000 would go to 36.
Okay. We'll have to,
Okay, everybody understand?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Nay. Motion passes 4-3. The nays were myself, Ms. Blank, and Mr. Piero. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, we're on the Finance Department.
Okay, pages 32 and 33, the proposed fiscal year 26 budget for the finance department is $1,124,668, representing a 9.1% increase over the current fiscal year. This increase supports essential financial operations, ensures compliance with audit and reporting obligations, and proactively manages the town's exposure to liability and risk. Key drivers include personnel costs, i.e. salary and benefit lines collectively increased by 6.97% and 5.87% respectively. Personnel changes include standard collective bargaining agreement related adjustments for the administrative clerk and increases in health and retirement benefits aligned with current rates. The operational costs lines are proposed to increase by 10.43%. That's largely driven by a 13.88% increase in liability and property insurance costs. This reflects a proactive budgeting assumption of a 10% premium increase based on updated valuations and risk exposure through the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust. Professional services are budgeted at $48,000, supporting actuarial and pension-related consulting services. Telephone expenses for all departments are proposed at $70,000, reflecting current contract costs. Auditing costs, the budget reflects a 40-60 split between the town and the school department audit costs. We pay 40%, therefore the finance department share is budgeted at $26,060 for fiscal year 26. The finance department's budget focuses on maintaining a strong financial control system, supporting operational service delivery, and protecting the town's financial position through sound insurance and audit practices. We are requesting provisional approval of $1,124,668 for the finance department.
Any questions on the Finance Department?
Question.
Ms. Blank.
The increase in the liability insurance and property insurance, is that a quote or is that an estimate?
That's an estimate. So what I did is I took the last 5 years in actuals. The average was 9%. So I just put it at 10% of the actual, not of budgeted from last year.
Okay, so just following
Correct, the trend.
prior rate increase. Thank you. Follow-up question. When would we get the hard estimate?
I'd say another month.
In a month? Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. McDowell?
Just on the administrative clerk, the 16, could you explain that again? Because I saw that it's budgeted, was
Correct.
budgeted 67.4 in 2025.
Right, so in accordance with the PMEA,
Yeah.
CBA, there are 4 administrative clerks. The administrative clerk pay is stepped up to full pay over 3 years. So the administrative clerk was at step 1, went to step 2 in October. And then we'll go to step 3, full step in October of the next fiscal year. So that'll be 100%, 100% of the pay.
Okay.
Any
Thank you.
further questions? I have a motion to provisionally approve the finance department's budget at $1,124,668.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have human resources.
Right, page 34 and 35. So the proposed budget for fiscal year 26 for human resources is $2,085,141. And this represents a 6.59% decrease compared to the current fiscal year. This decrease reflects a stabilization of major liability funding lines and a restructuring of retiree and insurance costs while maintaining a strong focus on employee services, benefits management, and regulatory compliance. Key drivers include personnel costs. So you have salary lines are proposed to increase by 6.72%, reflecting pay adjustments and the start of longevity for the assistant, which will be going into effect in the next fiscal year. Benefit costs decreased by 7.96%, largely due to lower actuarially determined contributions towards the town's defined benefit plan. Operational costs are decreased by 7.93%, with several important factors contributing. OPEB, the town's pay-as-you-go retiree healthcare costs are budgeted at $914,052, which is a 15.38% decrease from fiscal year 25, based on updated participant counts and actuarial projections. The retirement contingency is increased by $25,000 to better position the town for anticipated retirements. This is severance pay or payout of unused vacation and sick time as applicable, depending on the governing collective bargaining agreement. This number is based on the number of eligible people who we project or anticipate may retire or resign in the budgeted fiscal year. Employee testing is increased by 16.67% to support mandatory pre-employment screening, pre-employment written exams, and prospective employee physicals, and annual physicals for the fire department, which are paid for by the town in accordance with the collective bargaining agreements. Professional services are increased to cover anticipated pension and disability analysis work, and workers' compensation insurance increased by 8.74% due to updated rate and claim experience. Additionally, administrative fees for managing the FSA and HSA benefits remain level funded, and the town continues to fund the employee assistance program and vision care benefits at current service levels. So overall, the human resource budget ensures that the town can continue attracting and retaining talented people, managing pension and healthcare obligations responsibly, and protecting the town against workforce and liability risks. So we are requesting provisional approval of $2,085,141 for the Human Resources Department.
Ms. Blank.
I have a question on the retirement contingency. Can you just help me better understand why it's going up to 75,000 when actuals to date are at, say, 58,000 approximately?
We always take a census of the workforce, an administrative census of the workforce. We see who's eligible for retirement. They don't always say when they're going to retire, but we have to be able to plan for it. And then we look at potential employees who we anticipate may resign during the year. And that's what drives this number.
Okay, so it is based on the actual number of people that
Potential.
could
That
retire
could
and,
retire or we anticipate will resign.
gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. McDowell?
Just one question. The OPEB, it's combined here. And what would be the reason that we don't put it under each department? It's just, is that something that, have we done that in the past or is it?
We can certainly break it out. We've always accounted for it under HR. It comes out of
Always.
her budget. It's just easier to administrate that way. But the OPEB report, the Gatsby 75 report is always posted on the website. And I believe one of the last pages breaks it out. But you can see how it's allocated to each department in those reports. It's just administratively, it's easier to account for it in one place. Because we only have one bill.
Right, right. Okay, thanks.
Would it be difficult to, in the future, not in this one, in the future, to break out with the employment testing, the firefighter training separate from the employee testing, or would
This
that-
doesn't account for training. This is their
the-
physicals.
yes, I'm saying for their I misspoke, the firefighters' physicals. Firefighter physicals.
Say that 3
And
times.
I know, and the rest of the employee testing,
Sure, we can certainly do that.
just so we have, I'd like to have that bucket all together.
Okay.
In the future, you don't have to do it. this way.
Okay.
Does that mess you up too much, Kayla?
It's Lisa too.
Seeing that we're breaking out for Sandra, could we break out the OPEB to the department?
Yep.
Thanks. Thanks very much.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have a motion to provisionally approve the HR budget at $2,085,141?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have our legal budget at $260,500.
Okay. The proposed fiscal year 26 budget for legal services, as the president just stated, is $260,500, representing a 13.23% increase over the current fiscal year. This proposal was developed based on historic legal service levels and the costs associated with the town's previous solicitor. Since the submission of this budget proposal, the council has obviously hired a new legal firm to provide solicitor services. Key points to highlight, though. The proposed funding of $162,000 submitted in this budget was based on a base retainer of $78,000 or $6,500 a month and projected additional services of $82,800 based on the prior year's usage, approximately 828 hours of additional services. The assistant solicitor for prosecution that we expect will remain level at $17,500 for prosecution work. The labor attorney is level funded at $25,000, and that labor service supports the town with labor advice, grievance and mediation, and arbitration support, and preparatory work for the fiscal year's 27 scheduled labor negotiations. Subcontracted services increased from $10,000 to $15,000 to ensure continued access to outside legal expertise when necessary. And then the reserve for claims was maintained at $40,000 to address unforeseen legal claims and expenses. We budget this to offset unexpected or unanticipated legal fees. Some past examples include the solicitation of expert legal opinions or assistance in specialized areas such as the host community agreement, expert witnesses, court costs, the current DEM notice of violation issues, and the SB advisory opinions that are sought from town and town departments. So it's important to note that while the new legal firm may ultimately realize cost savings compared to prior experience, the fiscal year 26 proposal conservatively maintains existing funding levels to ensure continuity of legal services. Any savings realized during the fiscal year could be directed toward a legal contingency fund to address future unanticipated legal needs or claims. So in summary, the legal services fiscal year 26 budget prioritizes stability during this transition period while allowing flexibility to adjust based on actual performance. We are requesting provisional approval of $260,500 for legal services for FY 26 with the understanding that unrealized savings may be reserved for future legal contingencies.
Any questions, discussion on the legal line? Based on conversations with our current and future solicitor, it is my thought process that they're going to be less money because they have agreed to do more work underneath their base pay. We will see how that comes true.
Noted.
I
We've done an analysis that we provided. We don't see it the same way. It'll be very similar, we think, in the end, but we hope that
we will
this
see.
is how it comes out. But the budget was submitted in March and the decision was made in April. It was too late to change.
If the council believes otherwise, if you wanted to plus up this number, we would have to take it from someplace else. Or we'd have to roll the dice and see what happens come in 6 months when their bills become realized.
I would agree with leaving it as is because of any unknowns with the attorney as well as things that are happening, legal matters with the town.
Do I have a motion to provisionally approve the legal line at $260,500?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. I think we're gonna need more, but we'll see. So, negatives were myself and Mr. Piero. Next, we have our IT budget at $404,404. Can't make that one up.
So this is on page 37. The proposed next fiscal year IT budget, information technology, as was just stated, is $404,404, and that represents a 3.26% decrease over the current fiscal year. This reduction reflects organizational restructuring. We now work with Uplink IT, known to most of us as Corey Mendez. Corey and his company have been working for the town for over a decade and was part of the police station building team. In early November, we initiated an investigation into reports of internet outages occurring several times per day throughout the town's network, impacting the town hall, the police department, the fire department, and public works. The investigation revealed a need to upgrade the town's firewall and cybersecurity equipment and software. These measures are ongoing and will be completed in December. Specifically, we had to replace the town's existing firewall. This acts as the first line of defense between the town's private network and the public internet with a newer and far more robust offering. This update also matches the firewall manufacturer currently utilized by the Rhode Island State Police for its secure intermunicipality data transmissions. We also implemented a service to provide remote access to the town's network without sacrificing security. We had to deploy a new endpoint detection and response, which is an advanced antivirus software on all town devices, which provided a far greater array of defensive tools and management capabilities than its predecessor. And then we will deploy a service provided through what's called a Cisco umbrella, which adds an additional layer of security to all the town's devices by providing protection with access to a device, protected web access to a device, even if that device is being used in an unprotected remote network. Uplink took the lead on all corrective actions needed as the work required was far beyond the scope of our IT manager at the time. Our after-action analysis led us to the understanding that the town received better IT service, better reliability, better maintenance, better tech support, and better cybersecurity, all cheaper through our vendor than through our in-house IT manager. Our IT manager left in December before the corrective actions were completed. Uplink IT and Corey were already working for the town and is on the state master price agreement list. So with respect to this budget, all salary and benefit costs have been eliminated, reflecting a shift away from a staffed IT manager model to a fully contracted service. This restructuring is expected to enhance service flexibility and cost effectiveness. Operation expenses total $404,004, which is a 58.47% increase compared to prior year's operations allocation. Major operational investments include software and licensing. That's $240,203, which covers key systems plus such as our Microsoft network, SentinelOne cybersecurity protection, data server backups, Civic Plus website services, and BidNet finance software. IT services will come out to $136,852, which funds external labor support, system upgrades, emergency troubleshooting, and stipends for school-based IT assistants to support and assist in town operations. Operationally, we're also accounting for equipment replacement, $27,350 for critical uninterrupted power supplies and replacements across multiple data racks, ensuring uninterrupted power for network infrastructure. Additionally, we're doing continued investment in multi-factor authentication, Oshing Internet Services, that's the fiber that serves the town and the school, and cloud backup services, which ensures cybersecurity, disaster recovery, and compliance with Rhode Island Trust, state, and federal data standards, which all have to be implemented this year. So the FY26 IT budget emphasizes modernization, reliability, cybersecurity, and flexibility. By outsourcing core services and investing in professional grade systems, the town ensures technology, infrastructure stability, and long-term sustainability at a reduced cost. We're therefore requesting provisional approval of $404,404 for the IT budget.
Any questions on IT? Ms. White? No. Ms. McDowell?
I just think that that was a great move by the town to move to what you're doing right now. It seems like it's a home run. I just, in looking at it, there's just a couple things that confused me. And that was, we had a left, when the other person left, there was 52,000, I believe. And then there was 41,621. And so did that money go in to, like, where, I can't find it. I can't find the line in Taylor's that represents what happened to that money. Let me just see if I can say it.
His salary went to a
Um,
different line item, or you can't figure where it's.
Yeah, there was no money approved for software support in 2025 budget, yet in the monthly finance report for March, it shows that 200,198 was budgeted. And that it confused me. So I don't know. This whole thing confused me, but I think it's a great move by the town.
So obviously the salary is no longer being paid. So what the essence is if you were to take the total budget itself and look at the bottom lines, we're not necessarily over budget. We're just comparing it to what the total budget of IT would have been. So we'll overexpend on some operational lines because the salaries are not being spent on, the benefits are not. So we'll overexpend on operations, but in essence, you want to look at the bottom line figure. We're not overexpending IT.
You mean for now, for
For
this,
now,
for
correct.
2025,
Absolutely,
right? So
yes.
you've switched it to that.
Correct.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
Mr. Reese, did you have a question? Oh, yep, okay.
Motion to provisionally approve the information technology budget at $404,404.
She just wanted to say it,
Second.
yeah, I think so. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
He's in, very professional.
Next, we have our tax department budget at $601,793. Mr. Rader.
You'll find that on pages 38 and 39. So this budget reflects a 3.43% increase over the current fiscal year. Salaries are proposed to increase 6.73%. This is driven by contractual step and cost of living adjustments. A full year of budgeting for the administrative clerk position that was filled midstream in fiscal year 25, and small longevity increases in funding for overtime. Benefit costs decreased by 4.93% due to updated employee health insurance enrollment and lower than anticipated plan costs. Operations funding increases by 2.23%, reflecting stability in core services while responding to some cost escalations. So software licenses increased by 10.18%, and this is mainly due to the town's computer assisted mass appraisal, the CAMA software, and the GIS mapping systems. Postage and miscellaneous expenses decreased by 5%, and that reflects updated mailing estimates for tax bills and exemption applications. And then collection fees are level funded at $12,000 to maintain third-party delinquent tax collection services. Additionally, professional services and revaluation expenses remain unchanged, with the $100,000 set aside to build reserves for the next full revaluation. The tax office is expected to see a sharp increase in in-person customer traffic between now and the end of June as residents sign up for either the transfer station or curbside collection sticker programs. As of today, approximately 2,075 curbside stickers have been sold, but we anticipate almost double that total by July 1st. Which will probably and likely bleed over into July as people are trying to get their stickers when they realize that their sticker grace period doesn't exist at the transfer station. So that means an additional 2,000 transfer station stickers will go on sale starting this month. And that brings the expected customer count up to approximately 4,000, which will be served over the next few months. With each transaction requiring 3 to 5 minutes, this surge represents about 20,000 additional minutes of direct customer service, much of it concentrated in a short time frame. So therefore, the budget that is currently accounting for overtime in this fiscal year may not have been touched, but it will get touched as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. And then obviously we'll need that overtime for the next year, because this will be a cycle that will be in now. Where the transfer station and curbside stickers are sold starting July 1st instead of January 1st. So overtime funding in this budget is essential to ensure staff capacity during these periods and avoid long delays in service disruptions. So we are requesting provisional approval of $601,793 for the tax department.
Question for you. Might we want to, and I don't know what it costs, to set up a program online to allow people to apply for their license or their transfer station and curbside stickers online? Pick a number, $10,000-$20,000 to set it up. Might we want to budget that to get that going?
I have an idea for you. When we get to the planning officer, I agree with you 100%. And I know where you can get to $10,000 without impacting the budget.
Okay,
I'll point that out to you when we get to the planning.
but should we put it into this office as opposed to the planning office?
So we would just put it, I was going to suggest town contingency, and then we could just figure out, because this system would be applicable not just to the tax office.
Okay.
We would try to make it applicable to recreation and other offices as well.
Okay, but is 10,000 a good number?
I have no idea. I think so.
Oh.
We don't know.
Okay. All right.
President, just a quick question.
Ms.
about-
Bayard, yep.
Thank you. The overtime, and I'm assuming not only are we going to have more people coming in through the doors, is the just trying to think about it realistically, is the $1,500 enough for the overtime payment for what I'm assuming is also going to be expanded hours?
We think so because if you remember, the curbside and Headley Street enterprise funds are also funding a waste diversion manager. So
Mhm.
that'll be another body that will help do this. And they'll be stationed in the tax office to help serve the customer. So I think between that person, the clerks and the overtime, possible extended hours, I've talked to Matt about this morning. I think we'll be okay.
And we're talking expanded hours, potentially Saturday mornings from like a 9 to noon or something like that for a couple Saturdays.
I didn't want to give Matt a heart attack this morning. We'll wait and see.
Matt's a very strong man.
it now with the fire chief next.
The only thing that gives Matt a heart attack is bad Alabama games. That's all. All right, we have a motion to provisionally approve the tax office budget at $601,793.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. So we go to the planning department budget, pages 40 and 41. The proposed planning department budget is $571,840. That represents a 10.02% increase compared to fiscal year 25. This increase primarily supports employee retention, ongoing compliance with state and federal environmental mandates, and the strategic pre-funding of the next comprehensive community plan update. Key factors driving this budget are detailed. Salary and benefits. Salary costs are proposed to increase 5%, while benefits increase by 4.85%. Major drivers include an adjustment to the town planner's salary. The town planner's salary is proposed to increase by 7%, higher than the standard adjustment. This is a strategic retention move. Our planner, with over 20 years of experience, is widely respected across the state and has delivered exceptional service to the town. She is being looked at and sought after by many other communities. And in response, I provided a market adjustment in salary and office support to retain her, recognizing the statewide shortage of qualified planners and the competitive hiring environment. Maintaining institutional knowledge and continuity is critical to the town's success. There are also increases for the assistant planner, the wastewater manager, and the wastewater manager that align with the current collective bargaining agreement. Operationally, the funding increases by 39.79% compared to fiscal year 25, reflecting critical initiatives and strategic planning for future needs. Key items here include stormwater management compliance. The budget supports continued compliance with Rhode Island DEM regulations under the town's illicit discharge detection and elimination program. Last year's budget included a worst-case assumption because RIDEM could not specify how many of our 72 testing nodes would require sampling. Since then, RIDEM has narrowed testing requirements to fewer nodes, resulting in a significant fiscal year 26 budget reduction. This budget is expected to continue stabilizing as the town completes the pipe relining project and infrastructure upgrades. With respect to professional contract services, this includes funding for the MS4 stormwater report. The MS4 report is a federally mandated annual report required by the EPA and administered by DEM. It documents how the town is managing stormwater to reduce pollution in our waterways. This includes mapping outflows, tracking inspections, and demonstrating prevention efforts. This budget funds compliance with this requirement. The budget here pays for the work by Van Ness, Hangen, and Bruslin, or VHB, and the work that they do for Portsmouth to prepare the MS4 submission and for the products used by the wastewater manager in lab testing. This also, professional contract services also includes funding for community development block grant management. This is managed by Church Community under an MOU with the town, where the town is reimbursed if the grant awards are received. So we'll manage it, but then we get reimbursed. And then this professional contract service line also included funding for the Aquidneck Island Regional Resilience Coordinator. That coordinator was previously a position within the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. The role involves coordinating regional efforts to address natural hazards and climate change resilience on Aquidneck Island, specifically focusing on Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth. The coordinator's work focused on developing and implementing a regional multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, first of its kind, for the 3 Aquidneck Island municipalities. We budgeted Portsmouth's share of $10,000 as a placeholder. Since the budget was submitted, the position has received grant funding and no longer needs to be funded by the Aquidneck communities. The council can decide to move the $10,000 to another line item, and this could be the $10,000 that you move to a town contingency, which would help fund an online payment system for the town. Software licensing expansion. This significant increase reflects movement of the host compliance service contract into the planning budget from the town clerk's budget. So we removed the town clerk's budget, moved it into this budget. This is the service that we use to monitor short-term rentals and short-term rental compliance, which is done through the planner anyway. So that's why we're doing that. And then we've also included a line for the comprehensive plan. This is an expensive endeavor. So although the town's comprehensive community plan was updated in 2022, Rhode Island law requires a full update every 10 years. To avoid a large future budget impact, the fiscal year 26 budget establishes a restricted account with an initial $21,500 contribution. We anticipate beginning update work during fiscal year 32 with a projected $150,000 total cost. And then this budget also continues funding for stipends for the administrative assistants that provide meeting support for the zoning and planning boards. So in summary, the planning department's fiscal year 26 budget focuses on talent retention, environmental compliance, and long-term fiscal responsibility. Investments made now will stabilize operations, strengthen planning capacity, and reduce future fiscal impacts. We respectfully request provisional approval of $571,840 for the planning department.
You're going to remove $10,000 from that.
No, we're going to move 10,000.
You have to do that.
That's us. But first, we have questions. Any questions on the planning budget proper?
I do.
Ms. Blank?
Help me better understand with the comprehensive plan, the 21,500, isn't it people already here that do that work, or is there additional, or is there a fee to apply it? What is that breakdown and what does it cover?
Yeah, what most communities do, this has become an extremely involved process. There are 11 sections dictated by statewide planning that have to be followed. It took years to get the last one. Now we have to make sure that it's maintained, and every 10 years it has to be updated. So the process is you hire a consultant that helps walk through that process, does the charrettes, does the public workshops. This goes on for a couple of years, and then helps draft the final product. There is a lot of staff involvement, but we would almost literally need to hire somebody just to do that. And it's far cheaper to go do this through a consultant, which is what all the communities do across the country anyways.
Makes sense. Thank you for the clarification.
Ms. Patel?
So in the planning section, the director's salary budgeted for this year was 115,280, but it seems that we will be over that by 3,000 in the by the end of the year, most likely. What is that a result of?
Yeah, that was, if you remember, Gary Crosby retired. He was a previous planner, and then he was kept on in a part-time capacity. So that's to finish some of the projects that he was involved in. So that was the money that's been used to pay for him, for the previous planner.
So not for the director, for Mr. Crosby.
Correct.
Yep. Okay, and you know, at this juncture, if Leah didn't like me before, she sure isn't going to like me after tonight. While I heard what you said, Mr. Rayner, and I do appreciate the work that Leah does, I just am having a hard time. All other departments received a 4% raise, but planning received a 7 for the director and a 4.5 for the assistant. I just feel that it is not fair or equal. And at first I thought, well, that's what I felt, but I said, I'll do some research. So I did. And I looked at the municipal salary survey that was put out in 2024, and it lists all the towns in Rhode Island. And of all the towns, only 3 towns paid their plan or more: Newport, Middletown, and South Kingston, I think. So I felt okay about that because they are different kinds of municipalities. I also looked at the planning budget for 2026, and the operational budget is increased to close to 40%, primarily due to software and professional contract services. And when I look at the increases in these 2 areas, I think of increasing proficiency and efficiency through software and added help with professional contract services. All good things, which I'm assuming will definitely help. So for those reasons of equity and fairness, operational increases, I cannot support a salary increase of 7% for the director and 4.5 for the assistant.
Just as a matter of clarification, the
Yep.
assistant is a union employee. That's contractually mandated,
So that 4.5 is a contractual.
correct?
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Reese.
All right. I just have a question. All right. The actual number of the planner in FY 24 was 122,560. And proposed is 123,350. Those numbers are close. That's like $800 off. Was that the last planner that was getting the actual FY 24 money?
You had an overlap.
The overlap with Mr. Crosby
Oh,
during July,
okay.
August,
All
to
right.
finish things up.
Yeah, that is the overall. That's what it was. All right,
I would like to state my support for the planner. I feel it is invaluable to keep the retention of knowledge that we have in town, and feel that this is equitable, especially where it was approved to give ourselves 74%.
Not I.
Mr. Payero.
I would say it's not definition of equitable, but thank you. And I would say I'm fortunate enough, and probably it's a detriment of my job, that I do work with members of different councils. And we have a hot commodity in Portsmouth. And I know 3 members of different councils in 3 different towns that ask me every day whether or not she wants to leave. And I tell them, no. I've never had this discussion with Leah, but my hope is that I put it out to the universe and it doesn't happen. And the 7% increase, although on a budget sheet looks sizable, if we ever go out to find another planner, it will cost us more. It happens every single time we go out for a new superintendent. It goes out for almost every single time whenever you put up another position. It is now market rate with what the position calls for. And again, we're not just dealing with market rates of Middletown and Newport, we're dealing with the bordering towns of Massachusetts and Connecticut that do tend to pay a little bit more. So we do need to be able to be competitive, but then also retain talent. And I think that the $8,000 increase that that's requested is an investment in the work that has happened in the planner's office. And I think that it is something that we should have.
And just for clarification, this is not a slam on the planner, the director. It is just, in my opinion, it's only a fair and equity thing, fairness and equity. That's all.
Oh, and Mary, please don't take whatever I'm saying as a slam to what your points were.
No.
I would just like to point out, University of Rhode Island has ended and eliminated their planning department. They're not making planners anymore. So this, I like the term hot commodity because this is supply and demand. Our planner is being recruited, folks. I don't want to put her on the spot. We're not going to be able to replace her anytime soon. This is what I'm trying to do to keep her.
Ms. Patton? Yes.
I just have a question. Is your planning office, is they fully staffed now? Or are you still missing?
We're still, we wanted to get, if you saw the zoo over the last couple of months, I mean, we were playing musical chairs. We wanted to get the office settled down and built so that there was a place for this person to go. We'll be doing interviews here very soon to get that clerk that's supposed to be up there.
So you're just down one right now?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Rayner. Maybe it was the wrong way and it looks different, like it's a cost of living, which I think is probably the slight. I've had to do this myself, and normally what I would do is I would make somebody an offer, a counter offer, and they got an offer, a bona fide offer. I wouldn't want because none of this stuff is private, so everybody knows what everybody gets. I don't like that. I mean, that's not really the right thing, but I was just afraid it was going to cause some strife among other coworkers, for one thing. I mean, normally what I would do is I would, provide them an offer, and I would rewrite their PD to reflect, duties and different things in relation to the expanded amount of money. That's normal. I mean, this comes without explanation that you've done that, and that there was the normal process that you go through in order to do that.
With all due respect, Counselor, I would hope that the council would understand that I do my homework. That's been done.
Okay.
I've been talking to Leah for months.
Go ahead. I was changing subjects, so if it was on then.
I would like to just talk about the wages in general for the town. I've been out of the workforce for a while, but I don't remember too many 4% raises, let alone a 7. But I'm not going to argue that. I understand Mr. Rayner's point on retaining people here. It started with our police department. We've helped them out. And maybe we've got to go through all our departments, and people just aren't going into municipal jobs these days. My biggest concern is what do we do next year? And, are we thinking forward to that, and how are we going to talk to the unions when we're given 4%, 6%, 7%? So for now, I'm going to support this, but I just want to say that next year, I'm going to take a different look at this and say we can't keep sustaining high raises. Okay, but for now, I understand it. And I don't think next year it's going to be any different. People are still going to be calling and trying to steal people from other towns, et cetera. The other question, and I'll change the subject, is what can we expect to get out of the planning department this year? We've talked about the comp plan, which took forever to do. And now we've got to do a maintenance on it, but we still have to, pair the comp plan with all our ordinances that pertain to it. Is that something that we're going to tackle this year? And in general, we have a lot of stale ordinances that I think probably would come under the purview of the planning department. Are these the type of projects that they'll be able to work at, or are we just stressed out with other more important things?
This is what we've been discussing for a matter of months now. It had to start with the zoning ordinances. Leo will expand on this, but you did the tier 1, the tier 2. That was a curveball thrown to us by the state, and we've been scrambling to get those ordinances in line. It doesn't make sense to do it not in order, if that makes sense.
Many of the goals and policies that are listed in our comprehensive community plan hits upon some of the tier 1 and tier 2 amendments in the zoning ordinance and land use regs. So we've unknowingly have already made some checklists in the comp plan. And on April 24th, you'll see your monthly report coming from Rich in a couple days. On April 24th, we did our kickoff for the real modernization of the zoning ordinance. So that's what Aaron and I are really looking forward to. I think that's that's what I'm really excited about.
There was a pretty sly smile there about that.
So, give us a little bit of time and, in the autumn, hopefully we'll have some real, meat to chew on for you folks to look at.
Do we expect that we'll be hiring Mr. Crosby back to work in your department? Do we need,
He was very excited upon his retirement to keep working now that he has had a sense of living the retirement life. He doesn't come in as often and doesn't call as much. I think he's
On his cell phone.
retirement is looking good on him.
that might happen to Brian Woodhead.
No. Brian's a worker. He can't stop that long.
Thank you, Leah.
Ms. Blank, you're changing the subject from planning?
Well, still in planning.
Okay.
Not that much of a suggestion. Can you reiterate, the $10,000, was it a grant that we had received to offset something? Can you talk to that again?
No, that was for the Aquidneck Island Planning Resilience Coordinator. And what we had to do there, it was initially a position that was funded through Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, and that funding was due to disappear, but there was still a sizable amount of work to be completed. So what the communities agreed to do is that we would each put $10,000 into our budgets. I'm one of the first one that has to hand in a budget. But once this budget was completed, her grant funding was secured, so her position is safe. So there's no need to have that 10,000 in the planning budget for that position anymore. And of course, that was always conditioned upon approval by you, but
Can I just divulge a little bit more? Her name is Paige Myatt. Paige has been before the council explaining her future endeavors with the NOAA grant that she obtained for $2 million. That her salary comes out of that $2 million grant. So again, as Rich said, we had been providing her some money to hold her over until that $2 million kicked in. Now that we are seeing how the federal government is reacting and originally holding money, not moving forward with grant opportunities that had already been approved. It has come down that that money is being given to her Aquidneck Island Resilience Project. So that $10,000 can go to other projects and funds.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just have one more.
Mr. Fidel. Mr. Fidel?
Do you have? No, I just have one more comment regarding Mr. Gleason's comments, and you know, he made a statement that 4% is a decent raise, and I don't think anybody should balk at 4%. And he made another statement that says that, you know, we can deal with this next year. And I just want to caution that we can deal with these things next year and next year, but these kinds of things do have decisions do have cascading effects. And I think you alluded to it. And I think you're going to see that next year.
so we're all understanding that there aren't that many employees that are non-union. So when we're talking about the raises, 90% of the raises or more that we're talking about here, these are contractual raises in accordance with the collective bargaining agreements, which have been approved by the council. So we're not making these up.
All right.
And while we say that we're going to address it next year, that we can't just assume that we're going to be able to do that. We address it when we sit down at a bargaining table. Just so we're all clear.
Right, I think I was referring to the 4% because I was looking at department heads and it appeared that it seemed to be a general
Right, there's a
increase
memorandum of
for,
understanding that, and there was a motion that was passed by the council in years past that the NUGS, non-union group, follows. If the memorandum of understanding or the referendum, I forget what it was called, stated that the non-union group follows the highest raises of whichever collective bargaining unit got the highest raise that year. I have altered that. I've been following PMEA. 4%, but that's council policy and that's what we've been doing.
Okay, so should we move the $10,000 into contingency or should we move it over to IT software? Since we haven't budgeted the contingency or changed the contingency yet, it'd be easier because then we'd have to go back and change the IT budget completely, but it's not a big deal. It's just 10,000. Yeah. Right? So should we put it under software and licenses for IT? Since that's,
We can do that.
okay. So let's start with the easy motion. Do I have a motion to provisionally approve the planning budget at $561,840?
So moved.
70,000, yep.
561,
Yeah.
840.
840, yep. That's
We're
right.
taking the 10,000 out.
Right, that's right.
Okay, and we're going to be taking professional services down to 10,000, but we're proving the bottom line. And
so this is for the entire budget.
this, the entire budget for planning will be 561, 840.
Got it.
We had a motion by Mr. Gleason, seconded by Mr. Reese, seconded by Mr. Gleason, correct?
Second,
One of you said so moved. You said so moved.
I said so moved.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Good. Just want to make sure we have the
Good.
accounting correct.
Yeah, no big-
Dave and Dave. We got it. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-1 with Ms. McDowell opposed. Next, we'll go back to the IT budget, which is on page 37. We're going to move the $10,000 and unfortunately mess up the 404, 404.
It wasn't
Sorry.
meant to be.
And we're going to change the software and licensing, which I think is probably where it's going to end up. From 240, 203 to 250, 203, which would then change the bottom line budget to $414,404. I have a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Mr. President,
Yes.
regarding that program for people to pay with a credit card, just so people don't get too excited, they'd still be paying for the extra finance charges, right? We're not going
Yeah,
to,
those get passed on to the customers. So if you pay by check or cash,
right?
you don't have to pay that fee. But if you use an online service, we pass that on to the consumer.
Whenever you pay anything with a credit card, 3 to 5% gets paid for out of that bill.
Yeah.
To the credit card. Unfortunately,
No problem.
whether it's at a restaurant or wherever you do. So, all right. Next up, we have the
So,
building
Can I
official.
just ask
Yep.
one more
Yep,
question? I stand corrected, on any of the union, on this NUG agreement. So, that didn't come to mind. So really, we have no control other than what happens in collective bargaining agreements that triggers what we could say the employee is going to get next year. Just want to clarify that. But I think it would be helpful if we get a copy of that agreement.
We'll pass it to you.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have the building official. Total budget at $390,120.
Correct. That's page 42, 43. This represents a 4.17% decrease compared to fiscal year 25. Salary costs are proposed projected to decrease by 7.18%, while benefits decreased by 4.43%. Drivers here include, obviously, the new building official appointment. A new building official has been hired following the prior building official's departure, and under the terms of the current collective bargaining agreement, he is a member of the union. The new official starts at a rate which is lower than the previous official salary. The assistant building official position similarly is reflective of staffing transition and will be hired at a lower step under the current CBA. The clerk position reflects a contractual 4% increase per the applicable CBA. With regard to benefits, health and dental benefits reflect current updated rates, while retirement contributions decrease due to the lower base salaries and the benefit elections of new staff. With regard to operations, those costs are proposed to increase by 3.4% compared to the current fiscal year with the following adjustments. Contracted services, this is for the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical inspections, are projected to increase slightly by 3.75%. Training and professional development, we're projecting continued investment in professional development and certifications, and we will remain that line at level funded to ensure compliance with state mandated licensing and inspection training requirements. Fuel and maintenance funding remains stable with a modest increase in vehicle maintenance to account for the aging of the inspection vehicle. And then postage and general supply lines are reduced to reflect lower utilization rates. So in summary, the building official department budget reflects a transitional year with new personnel hired at lower contractual costs while maintaining core service delivery levels. The department's focus remains on providing responsive building inspection, permitting, and code enforcement services to the community, and we respectfully request provisional approval of $390,120 for the building official department.
Questions on building official? I have a motion to provisionally approve the budget at $390,120.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have economic development at $52,286.
Right, just for informational purposes, for those that aren't aware, the planning board budget was assumed into the town planner budget 2 years ago. So on page 45, we have economic development. This budget represents a 2.67% increase over the current fiscal year. The director's salary is proposed to increase by 4%, with payroll taxes rising proportionally. Operations funding is proposed to slightly decrease by 0.25% compared to this fiscal year. Key components include dues and subscriptions. The largest operational line item, $13,005, supports Portsmouth's memberships in Connect Greater Newport, the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, and the Portsmouth Business Association. These memberships provide networking, grant assistance, and economic development support services. We're also funding software support. This includes annual subscriptions to GrantWatch and a survey software service, which aids in grant identification and stakeholder surveys, and we'll keep that remain funded at $599. Advertising and marketing of $2,000 is reserved for downtown business, the Downtown Business District promotions, and the PEDC, the Portsmouth Economic Development Committee initiatives. Professional development, a small amount, $105, is budgeted to cover attendance at regular business events hosted by the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce. Travel is reduced by $100, and that reflects actual usage trends and a focus on local and regional activities. So we're therefore requesting provisional approval of $52,286 for the economic development director.
Questions to council? Mr. Reese?
Yes, no, I just have a question on the economic development as far as the reports from the organizations that they belong to, Connect Greater Newport and Newport Chamber of Commerce. I would like to, I mean, I'd actually like to see some reports from these organizations as to what they're doing and how they involve and how they can help Portsmouth. You know, because in Newport organizations, and I was just trying to figure out what value they have to Portsmouth, because that's quite a ways away and it wouldn't be anything to do with, you know, tourism for us.
That's the curse of living in Aquidneck Island. Everybody calls himself Newport, but they actually do represent. You know,
Newport County and part of
Newport
Fairfield
County.
County.
Do we get reports from them occasionally? I haven't really seen anything. And
We go to regular meetings, but I can certainly invite them to provide reports to the.
it would be nice to
Council.
see what they're working on and
Sure.
maybe what we can help them with. They can help with this because that's a sizable amount of money, $13,000. And I just want to see, I want to get something from it and maybe be able to do something with it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Green?
Tom Grabe, 110 Third Drive, just quickly, to me, spending $13,000 for memberships in the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce and Connect Greater Newport is outrageous. I've never seen anything from either group which truly promoted Portsmouth. You know, please eliminate these memberships from the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Grebe. I would respectfully disagree on that, and they've done a very good job of helping us with grants on different types of things and options, but I would like them to do more for Portsmouth, but Ms. Reese.
Oh, can, like we did with the other group, can we get them to possibly come in and talk to us
I
about
could-
what they do, maybe?
I can ask.
I mean,
them,
we've
sure.
heard from other groups and it's.
Sure.
It's good for the new councilors. and-
Sure.
and to know what they can do and maybe we can get some dialogue going back and forth.
Absolutely.
All right.
We can reach out to Erin and see if she can come in. She's been here in front of us before. Mrs. Gleason.
Because it's not on the agenda, perhaps we could get an update on what Mr. Talipsky is doing with the economic development in town here as well. At a future date.
Okay.
I did get one of the new bags and they're great.
Okay.
From the.
I
PE
02871.
Yes,
Yes.
from the PEDC.
Yeah.
It's a good bag.
You have to go to a PEDC meeting or business after hours.
I went to the meeting. I didn't get a bag.
All right.
Jealousy.
A motion to approve the economic development budget at $52,286.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We are now going to jump a bunch of pages to page 63 to the Recreation Departments. Correct. 63 and 4 we'll start with.
Page 63 and 64, you'll find the Recreation Department. So the Recreation Department budget reflects an almost level funded plan that accounts for salary adjustments offset by operational efficiencies and refined program cost estimates. This proposal maintains our full range of recreation programs, camps, and events while continuing to responsibly manage facility and service costs. Salary and benefits, the salary and benefits budget reflects an overall increase of $4,157 or approximately 1.5% over the current fiscal year. Key related changes include 4% salary increases for the full-time staff, the director and the assistant. A slight reduction of $3,500 in non-beach staff salaries to more accurately reflect actual staffing needs observed during the current fiscal year. Level funding, beach staffing at $35,000. We don't see that there's an increase needed next fiscal year. And then no funding is proposed for general seasonal staffing for the next fiscal year. In prior years, this line funded seasonal support, but staffing needs are now incorporated into other categories. So benefit cost increases are driven by health insurance premium adjustments, increased retirement contributions aligned with salary growth, and standard payroll tax changes. With respect to operations, the department's operating budget proposes a slight decrease of $4,383 or 3.67% for the next fiscal year, despite a number of ongoing and expanded programming initiatives. So key highlights here, with respect to beach operations, we expect an increase of $2,355, and that's proposed to support enhanced services at Sandy Point Beach. With respect to the Brown House, funding is reduced by $5,100 to reflect updated maintenance costs. And then with respect to camp, program, and event expenses, a slight 1.92% decrease is proposed. The department will continue offering a robust slate of programs, including summer camp, vacation camps, pickleball, tennis, adult softball, Lego workshops, fitness classes, and flag football. This budget also supports special events like the farmers market, yard sales, rail explorer events, and community programming at the Brown House. Recent years' revenue projections for revenue fees have been refined based on more detailed event analysis. Fiscal year 26 revenue projections are based on actual enrollment figures and anticipated participation levels for each program. With respect to electricity costs at Brown House and the beach, we are expecting a slight increase of $466 to reflect updated rates. We will continue to pay the lease on the department truck. We'll be going into year 3 of that lease. And then we have proposed reducing the fuel cost for that truck by $750 based on current utilization trends. So a special note regarding the recreation department. We completely understand the recreation department has faced challenges in meeting previous revenue projections. Our analysis, state and region wide, is that this is not uncommon for young and growing municipal recreational programs. In response, the fiscal year 26 budget is built on a line-by-line program review of each offering: summer camp, adult fitness, flag football, rail explorers, and others, reflecting actual enrollment patterns, staffing requirements, and program costs. We are working to improve cost recovery and provide more reliable net revenue projections for fiscal year 26. We are working to grow a recreation department, not as a profit center, but rather as a community service with managed cost recovery that balances accessibility, affordability, and sustainability. So in summary, despite modest overall growth in salaries and benefits, the operational reductions reflect ongoing efforts to maximize the town's recreational offerings without placing additional strain on the tax levy. We are therefore requesting provisional approval of $412,000. Let me start over, it's getting late. $412,845 for the recreation department.
Thank you, sir. Any questions on the recreation budget? Ms. McDowell?
So I think you've said it, but I just need a little bit more clarification. So the beach expenses budgeted in 2025, it went over, right? It's over now, no? According to your March 31st?
Right, there's going to be a realignment. I'm going to just have to do a simple reclass within the fund, within the DAC, which is the Recreation Department. When we did this budgeting, it's just more of a clear picture of where, instead of putting things in buildings, ground and maintenance, prices, the beach.
Yeah.
It's just a realignment.
Realignment, okay.
Correct.
So then that would account also for the things that are in your monthly expenses under recreation for the 2025 budget that are not listed in this budget is like electricity, gasoline, water, supply / events and service maintenance contracts?
I'm not sure. The
Well,
fuel. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Under your recreation budget, right?
Yes.
You have them listed out. Electricity, right, and all
Yes.
that, but it's not in this. But you're saying you're gonna realign? What does
No.
that mean?
It
The
is in this.
expenditures, the utilities are going to remain the same. So for instance, for beach expenditures, I have, whether it be concession supplies, paper supplies, pest control, beach stickers, that's what would be under beach expenses.
Yeah.
The utilities themselves will be under the respective electricity line, water line.
Okay. So the service maintenance contracts is now named beach expense, right? I was so confused looking at what your monthly is and what this is. I couldn't get it's because of all the realignment. You know, your monthly. All right,
I'll go ahead and pull it up.
huh? It was just
Yep.
really confusing.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
I,
No?
I'm just gonna, while she pulls it up, I'm gonna see if anybody else has questions other than that one while she pulls it up. Ms. Patton, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple.
That's good.
So you mentioned, for the beach expenses, you mentioned there's new services. Can we just get a list of what those are, or? If you know what those are.
So you're looking at, again, paper supplies, concession, water testing, pest control, the cost for beach stickers, which was never accounted for, trash pickup, those kinds of things.
Did you find it, Kayla? No?
Mr. Gleason,
Oh, sorry,
that's it.
sorry.
I have a question. Two questions here. Your quote, if you could just run it by me again, Mr. Rayner, you put that we're trying to manage the recreation department, not as a profit center, but as a got in your little speech there.
Yeah, we're trying to make it a service that recoups the cost of the service. It's not necessarily something that we're trying to, we're always trying to make more money than it costs to run the service, but it's not being run as a department store. It's being run more like any other service in town, where we want to provide a service to the people that need it at a reasonable cost without a significant profit margin. That's what we're trying to say.
Okay. So that being said, on Monday, we approved projected revenues of 330,105, which was a 27.4% increase. That number is good, bad, or
Yeah,
just a target?
That's the target number based on the line by line review that we've done comparing revenues and expenses. I mean, ever since the inception of this, and this was obviously a long discussion when we started this.
Yeah, that's,
If we take out beach expenses, you know, we're clear. But the beach costs money.
Yeah.
And we don't charge residents to park there. So we took a huge hit in COVID. And if we have bad weather, we obviously, you don't make as much money as you can. So this year, we're obviously going to reinstitute the concession stand, try to make money there, and try to offset the costs that it takes to run that beach. But if we look at the other programs, it's either cost neutral or cost benefit to the town. But it's just, it is what it is. And because there was grant money that was taken, I might get this wrong, but I believe I'd have to go back and look at the way that the town received that property, but because we don't charge residents to park there, we cannot charge anybody when there's no lifeguards. So and I'm not suggesting that we charge residents, but this is in marketing 101, this is a loss leader.
Yeah. Is that an issue, having lifeguards in this day and age? I know that's a state mandate. You have to have them.
Regionally wide, it's a huge issue. Rhode Island just started an initiative, a campaign to hire people at a much higher rate to attract them to the lifeguard service. Massachusetts is now making it a full-time job with benefits. We're seeing it all over. For years, we've tried to get, seasonal help. I don't want to paint with a broad brush. I have a young man coming back home after he graduates here. Try getting him out to work. It's harder and harder.
Sure. As far as the beach itself goes, are you satisfied with the rates that we charge the general public now?
I'm going to defer that to the Parks and Rec Committee. I think this is something that they intend to talk about at some point. I I mean, I'm happy providing the service to the residents. It's one of the most popular things we have in town. I'm not asking that we charge residents time more, but maybe it's something that they should consider with regard to non-residents.
Thank you.
Caleb.
All right, I see exactly what you're saying, and I will tell you, I'm stumped. When I look at every report, and I will be more than happy to show you my screens, everything says supplies beach. I'm not sure why this one report says service contract.
Yeah, it's very different than
I-
what's here and
I'll be more than happy to show you
No.
my screens. Everything does say supplies beach, though.
yeah, that's all right. It was very, very confusing and so
I mean-
service maintenance contracts
Right,
is really on here, beach expenses.
correct. And
So what is service?
the
ma-
object 55340 in our accounting system is tied to beach expenses.
Okay, okay.
I'm gonna bet you a cup of coffee. That might be the dumpster, but we'll see.
Yeah, but the other things like electricity, gasoline, water, supply, events, building and grounds that are on your monthly are not, you're not breaking it out now for next,
Roll in there. Next page.
Yes, I am.
what's that?
Page 64, you have,
Well,
vehicle gas at $750, water at the Brown House and the beach at $1,200, electricity Brown House Beach at $10,816.
Building and grounds, no. Anyways, it was just confusing for me because some were in and some were not, but
Different label.
different label.
Yep.
And then, another thing, as of 3/31, is this correct that the Recreation Department has $91,570 balance? What other expenditures will take up that much money going forward? Is that, first of all, is that correct? Am I not reading it right? It was a 91.5
Correct.
balance.
So for any part-time help, which is the counselors, the upcoming camps, beach, those are not encumbered. So those are, when we do the payroll, those are, I'm not sure how to explain this.
Plus you have the month of June for lifeguards.
Yeah, June. I figured there'd be something there, but
So
90
so we don't encumber for
91,000.
those because we don't know exactly how many hours are going to be spent on that. So we pay as the payroll comes in. There's other things such as the camps and events. We just haven't spent that money yet because camp has not started. So there is still money there to be spent.
Yeah, I figured in 3 months there would be, but I just didn't know.
That is accurate as of 3/31.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Ms. Patton?
I just have a couple other questions. You mentioned, the lease for the truck. Do you know the balance, what's left on that?
Sure, we're in year 3. I think it's a 5-year lease. It's in the budget book under the leases, but
You have to go to the backup budget.
Oh, okay.
Leases,
All right, I didn't see it.
under debt service
And,
leases. Recreation vehicle, is 10,318 a year. This total lease funding was 46,747, wherein, so year 4 would be 2027, should be paid off then, roughly
The last payment will be in fiscal year 28.
28, yeah, for $6,000 or something like that.
No, it'll
Yep.
be after FY 26, we'll still owe 20,635 on the
Okay.
vehicle.
Well, that's good.
So do we take Melville Park separately or do?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, the Parks Department, yes.
so,
So we're gonna do the recreation total at 412,845, and then we'll do the parks at 18,000. Yes.
Melville, yep, thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Mike? No. Do we have a motion to approve the Parks Department budget at $412,845?
So moved.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we have the $18,000 for the Melville Park. I have a motion to provisionally approve that at $18,000.
So moved.
second,
Any
Just,
discussion?
yeah, just a question on that. Again, there was in 2025, $18,000 put in, and right now we have a budget that has not been used of 17,700, and there seems to be in those three areas, buildings and ground, trail maintenance and pond, not much used at all. So is that something in the next 3 months we're going to be using, or?
So I did speak with one of the committee members, Mr. Abraham, and I'm not 100% sure on the laws regarding what the project he needs per se, but he needs some permissions from DEM. And he did say that it would take well over the 3 months. So the project that he intends for the air filtrators will not continue until 26. But he's waiting on DEM permitting. There was also some things that he wanted to buy, which were over the purchasing policy. So
Did-
there's just.
Did we not do any algae treatments in
Mm-mm,
July, August of last year?
doesn't appear to be.
When, I mean, that's when the algae blooms usually happen. I'm kind of looking past you, Kayla, to Brian. We didn't do any last year? Okay.
Mm-mm.
I mean, is DPW the one that does like the trail maintenance too?
They do some trail maintenance, but most of the hands-on trail maintenance for supplies and things like that are done by the volunteers.
Okay,
Remember, Mr. Luce was
Yeah.
here.
okay.
And they buy, most of them pay for it out of their pocket, whether it's gasoline for the chainsaws or an extra tool. But they don't necessarily return in the receipts.
So my question would be to you, Kayla, do you think this is a realistic
This is what we were asked to budget. I don't know what I'm not a pond expert. I don't know what is essentially needed. But they did request 18,000 to level fund.
Depends on the year and the rain and the runoff and the nitrogen fertilizer and whether or not the blue-green algae shows up and we can't fish there anymore and you're advised not to swim, and some years it happens and some years it doesn't, unfortunately.
You know, but
But-
like trail maintenance and building and grounds, repair and maintenance, we haven't touched that too much, and we have an $18,000 line item budget that isn't being used. I just question that, I guess.
Okay.
The only I would question is, Kayla mentioned the word aeration. So that refers to a piece of equipment, you know, being able to, you know,
You got Kayla. Yes.
Brian, maybe.
Kayla, as the pond expert, can you speak on this? please?
Asking for your expert opinion, but I'm just trying to connect the dots.
So the Melville Park committee members, they purchased some aerators. They haven't got the agreements yet from the Navy to get power onto the pond. And we have some of the supplies at our DPW, but they're still missing a few items too. So there's some stuff at our shop, and then they're gonna be purchasing more stuff. They have to get agreement with the Navy to get power to power the bubblers at the pond. So
Which pond are they gonna do? Just
the front one, the
Yeah,
Thursday,
Thursday.
Red- yeah, Thursday
But
Red.
but this process is totally different from what we've done in the past, of throwing chemicals in there.
Correct. That's what they were
Nothing
trying to
to do
do,
with
is
it.
something a little less aggressive with chemicals. They just want to try to see if the aeration will do it, because it's so shallow of a pond and the algae grows so in the shallow thing. And then when it gets warm, that's when the blue-green algae starts blooming. So they're trying to get it.
also may keep the mosquitoes down a little bit too.
Well, there's fish in there, so mosquitoes don't grow where it's.
Bad, yeah.
That being said, those little clues, I think we should leave the money there. Personally.
So then do I have a motion to, did we already do the motion? We did, okay? And a second, and then we had the questions. So all those in favor of the $18,000?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we're on civic support, which we already tentatively approved back in
Civic
February.
support
We have
was-
to
Correct.
provisionally approve at $908,482 with the movements that we made back in February. We have a motion to provisionally approve $908,482.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1 with Mr. Piero in dissent. We already did the schools.
Back to page 20.
Not yet.
Oh,
We got
page
capital
69,
improvement
please.
plan. On page 69.
Okay, so on page 69 and 70, you'll find the capital improvement plan for next fiscal year. Each August, we begin updating the capital improvement plan, and this initiates a thorough months-long process where we closely identify, review, and prioritize capital needs. These requests are based on urgency, community impact, costs, long-term value to the town. From there, we begin shaping the proposed capital budget, essentially the portion of the CIP that is proposed for spending in the upcoming fiscal year. So we work hard to keep the levy no greater than the annual rate of inflation. We made the decision to level fund the capital line to what was allocated last year. As a result, while all capital needs are acknowledged, many are deferred to future years. The plan presents a balance, which is meeting essential needs in fiscal year 26 while maintaining fiscal discipline and preserving core town services. The CIP remains a valuable planning tool for future investment, and we'll continue to revisit and adjust it as funding allows and priorities evolve. So the proposed capital improvement plan for next fiscal year totals $655,860 and reflects a restrained but necessary investment in core infrastructure and facility upkeep. This year's requests have been carefully vetted and represent the most immediate needs identified by town departments. The plan prioritizes health and safety, fleet maintenance, and targeted repairs to aging public buildings. Notable examples include the Glen Manor House roof interior work, police equipment upgrades, including tasers and red dot sights, fire department cardiac and imaging tools, and playground improvements and site work at Glen Park and Sandy Point. Also included are modest allocations for town hall furniture and IT hardware upgrades. These investments are modest in scale and are purposely structured to support continuity of service while deferring larger, less time-sensitive requests to future years. So in total, the plan focuses on readiness, public safety, and priority maintenance. Out-year needs totaling $3.57 million for fiscal year 27 and another $2 million through fiscal year 30 have been identified and will be revisited and prioritized as conditions and resources allow. We respectfully request your approval, provisional approval of the CIP as presented.
Questions on the capital improvement plan at $655,860. Ms. Blake.
Just looking for a clarification. Under fire, we have the radios, and I know we had discussed those before. They were on back order, the Motorola. This cost aligns with what had been mentioned before. But it was also stated in the 14,000 for radios, with historical actuals had been about 3,000.
That line in the fire budget is for radio maintenance. And it also includes a firefighter drops a radio, an antenna breaks or something. Motorola is the only game in town. You have to send it to Motorola. It's quite expensive. This is for capital purchase and replacement of radios. And generally, capital improvement projects are considered, if something $5,000 and above would be a capital improvement generally. And it would end up in this budget here. So this is for radio replacement.
A radio replacement, not that you knew.
Those radios that we received were either one-offs or had been sent out for service. I don't know off the top of my head what was.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick follow-up. Mr. Rayner, how much does a radio cost?
So right now, anywhere $6,000 to $8,000.
Mr. Reese.
Page 7, I believe there was revisions to that. I believe in the police section that we got a note that the speed signs, whatever they were removed. Was that not true? And it was taken.
Yeah,
I have a note here on mine. It says remove.
correct. That was something,
So that's $13,000. It shouldn't be.
that was something that was deferred to a following year and showed up in the page that was originally published, but did not reflect in the bottom. So it was not added to the total. So that is still in the CIP request plan, but it's not in the CIP for this current year. So there's no, it did not affect the bottom line number, the 655,860.
And another note that I thought here was that the Glen Park playground structures, they were already new and there's $18,000 in the budget for those.
It's for additional equipment.
This is to add on to what's there.
Oh, it's an add-on. Okay.
Unfortunately, if you look up playground equipment, it's
All right.
ridiculously expensive,
All right.
beyond ridiculously expensive. Mr. Gleason.
Yeah, as far as playgrounds go, is the Redwood Farms playground in the capital improvement plan somewhere down the line?
I think just under the general line, playgrounds, yes. But we're trying to get things improved and we go where, where are the kids using the playgrounds? And we're getting a lot of folks in the Glen Park and there's been a request to put equipment there. So there's soccer down there, there's softball down there, there's other picnics down there. So, and there was no playground equipment for them to play on. That's why we concentrated on this.
Yeah.
And we'll, as money and prioritization makes things available, we will get to the Redwood Farm.
Could the Redwood Farms one be moved up? Because when Dave and I walked the neighborhood, that's a young neighborhood. There's lots of, lower priced houses. There were lots of kids. And they're trapped down there because of the way the road's set up. You can't send your kids across the road or anything like that. And it's dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. We can take a look at
So
that.
that's one of, and they're like in the
Move it up.
outskirts of everything.
Sure, we can look at that and, when we talk budgets next year, we'll make sure that that's a high priority.
All right.
I think a lot of parents were too afraid to send their kids there, to be honest with you, after looking at it.
They did have a couple of parents come to one of the meetings. I'd like to see if we could possibly maybe split that and put, Glen Park looks wonderful with the new equipment that's down there. But I'd like to see if we could maybe, take half of it and put it down to Redwood. Redwood has not been touched in many years. And
My only cautionary, and we have Paul Rodericks here, he is a certified playground inspector. $18,000 and even half of that $9,000, that's not even gonna buy a swing set. That's not really gonna do anything. So my guidance to the staff is when we do a project, we don't do it halfway, and if the money does not come to fruition in the following year, it never looks like an unfinished project. If we're gonna do Redwood Farm, I will make it an absolute priority in the next budget, but $18,000 is not gonna do what needs to be done down there.
so with the $18,000, how many more pieces of equipment do you plan, or do you think's gonna,
I don't know if
Put
we
down
have
at
that,
Glen.
if I don't have that broken out right now.
one?
Yeah, please come to the podium.
That is one multi-unit piece of equipment, and installation and the shipping fees is the 18.
And can you just, what's down there now? The new swing set, the,
Seated spinners, a slide. We have a climbing dome and a sky runner, they call it.
so there's like 6 or 7 pieces of equipment down there now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I know that Redwood, we've talked about it for so long, and I know, parents are now coming and expressing, their feelings, and I know previous councils have, brought it up, and it was passed or whatever before. So I just think that Redwood should be a priority as well. So,
And we are cleaning things up. Paul and I believe we're taking the monkey bars away and also fixing a few other things.
We're gonna get a contractor, a vendor down there to inspect it because there's a lot of mixed matched in there. So what we were deciding on is probably making the smaller portion a 2 to 5 year olds and the bigger portion of 5, 12-year-olds. So
Is that
before
like-
we add anything to there, we'd like to see
so maybe in another year or two.
we're gonna get
For
down
Redwood.
and get some price.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the capital improvement? If none, can I have a provisional approval of $655,860?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up, we have debt service,
Enterprise funds.
enterprise funds.
Page 80, please.
Oh, you want to skip over debt service and do enterprise funds?
Those pages are informative. We do debt service. That's right after this.
Okay. I'm good with that. Anything that gets out of here before 10 o'clock?
All right, enterprise funds are used separately to account for specific town operations that are intended to be financially self-sustaining. And they are distinct from the general fund. The town currently maintains 4 active enterprise funds. So here on page 80 is the first one. This is the Glen Farm Equestrian Center. And in accordance with the concessionaires contract with the town, the operator of the Glen Farm Equestrian Center is obligated to remit a base rental fee of $19,422 plus 5% of their annual gross receipts. Per the arrangement, an amount not to exceed the first $5,000 in revenue share generated shall be credited back and reinvested in repairs, renovations, and long-term maintenance of the facility. So we monitor this with the Finance Department and the Economic Development Director. We monitor this arrangement through periodic reviews and site visits. So for FY 26, we project revenue of $19,422 and request provisional approval of $19,422 in expenditures for grounds maintenance and facility repairs.
So it's a net zero. They put the money back into the building
It's always a net zero, it goes back in.
for X amount of years or it's forever?
Until the end of the contract, and I think it was renewed recently. I have it here. I can look it up for you.
It's okay. Thank you.
Any
Is-
other questions? Yep.
Is there a reason why the revenue for the Glen Farm Equestrian Center is here and not listed with the other revenue?
Because it's an enterprise fund. What we're discussing
Because
now
of
is
the
completely
enterprise fund.
separate from the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
A motion to provisionally approve the Glen Farm Equestrian Center Enterprise Fund at $19,422.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Transfer station.
Okay, transfer station, that was already approved in December, so there's no vote needed. Same with curbside, that was voted for in December, there's no vote required. On page 83, that's the septic, the first one there is the septic loan program, that is closed. It's just provided for information purposes only because there still is some activity, people paying off the loans. And then the last active enterprise fund is the Arthur Daniel Howell House. Some people might remember as Phelps House. This enterprise fund reflects the town's continued lease agreement with the tenant who is renovating the property. And for next year, the proposed base fee is $31,230, and that reflects a 4.1% increase over the prior year in accordance with the lease agreement. As in past years, the revenue is fully offset by an equivalent expense credit, resulting in a net budgetary impact of 0. That money is put right back into the continued renovation of the facility or the house. And we request provisional approval of $31,230 in expenditures for maintenance and repairs.
I have a motion to approve the Arthur Daniel Howell House, Phelps House Enterprise Fund.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, now page 25.
We got you there, David. Told you we'd get there.
Let's see what we're gonna do. All right.
Okay.
This is,
So the expenditure summaries start page 24. We've talked about everything with the exception of the few items that we're about to bring up. First is debt service on page 25. That's the first white section you see just above the mid-page. So here you'll see a summary of the town's scheduled debt service payments for both town and school bonds. Detailed information for each outstanding bond is provided for on the finance webpage. and summarized on pages 72 through 75 in the budget book. The town is responsible for both town and school debt service obligations, which are included in the general operating budget. So for fiscal year 26, we respectfully request your provisional approval of the following, and it goes in order. First, $5,000 for the annual bond administration fee, then $1,723,450 for the school bond debt, and then $1,102,393 for the town bond debt. This results in a total debt service appropriation of $2,830,843, which reflects a 14.13% increase over the fiscal year 25 approved level. And that increase is due primarily to the scheduled principal payment for the 2022 Rybeck school bond.
Any questions on bond debt? We have a motion to provisionally approve the bond debt at $2,830,843.
So moved.
Provisionally, sorry.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, that second white section just below the midsection of the page, you'll see it labeled as other. This outlines several non-departmental expenditures to be approved for fiscal year 26. The first one you've already approved, that's the $655,860 to support capital projects. So we'll be asking for your provisional approval of the following. The first is $50,000 for OPEB, other post-employment benefits funding. This is additional funding that we put in beyond the PAYGO. The second item there is $257,163, and that represents the town portion of the additional $300,000 that you voted to put into the defined benefit pension plan. The school picks up the rest as their share. Next below that is $10,000 to the Open Space Reserve Fund. $40,000 is below that, and that's for a capital reserve fund. And then below that is $15,000 for a town contingency fund.
25,000. 25. We added the 10.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, you did say that, 25.
Okay, so I know we have some questions on this, but the new bottom line number would be $1,184,538.
Hey, correction.
No,
You
no.
added the 10,000 to the IT
Oh, that's
budget.
right. That's right. I wrote notes over here instead. Okay, my bad. Yeah, well, could have. But that makes more sense in the IT budget. Still $1,169,538.
Would it be minus the amount that we already approved? So it'd be
But that's the
370.
total amount.
Yeah, but then with the not, unless given, we'll just be voting on it again, but if
Well-
not, it would be 372,163.
That section is $1,028,023. That $1.169 also includes
The library. Which we should include. Civic board. And also the revenue pass-through. Council's questions, Ms. McDowell?
Yeah, just referring to the two pension lines in there. Everyone knew that or knows that I had a problem with the $300,000 being put on the tax levy for that for this item here, for those two items. And then the discussion came with the school roof. And after that discussion, I decided that I'm going to pursue this in this way because of the discussions and the changes we made in the decision to going with the higher school roof. So I'm hoping that my counselors listen to the logic that I think I have here and hopefully support this. So the original plan section in the FY 26 budget proposes to add 307,163 to the tax levy and put that money into the pension and OPEB funds. It is also intended to do this in the next two annual budgets for a total of $1 million added to the funds, which is recommended by our actuary to make sure we do that. I believe there's a better plan, and I believe that is to take 1 million from the fund balance and put it into those two funds now. I see advantages to these, and I see advantages in that it puts the money in the funds faster, so it has more time to grow. It reduces the budgeted tax levy this year and also for the next 2 years for a total of $1 million in tax savings. Town cash is moved from low interest cash equivalent to a much more aggressive in growth investments. So its concerns, the fund balance is to be kept between 8 and 16% of the previous year's town budget, according to our ordinance. The calculation would be between 8 and 16% of 74 million, or between 5.9 and 11.8 for this year. The present fund balance, as determined by our last audit, was 12.1. Already, one could consider over the max allowed. When the high school roof discussion came, the high school roof repair will reduce the fund balance by only $500,000, given the decision we made, if the contingency is not used. We'll add up to 400,000 more if it was used. The fund balance would then be over 10.2 million after funding both the pension fund as recommended and the roof, which is above the middle of the mandated range. There's another concern that I heard previously about the bond rating. The administration roof repair proposal was to take over 1.7 million from the fund balance for the 30-year roof. However, the less expensive 20-year roof was approved by this council. Both the roof, including total contingency, and the pension funds payments are less than the 1.9. If the original proposal for the roof repair would not affect our bond rating, this proposal, I believe, will not either. So that's my feeling on this. I would like to make a motion that we move the OPEB and pension expenses from the other expenditures section of the FY 26 budget and fund these expenses by taking 1 million from the fund balance instead.
Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second that.
Okay,
And I want to add a couple of things.
sure.
I agree with her, and that's the best way to do it. We'll have a $4 million cushion. It solidifies the pension funding long-term. And as she mentioned, the pension money is now invested in pension long-term, higher growth and earning investments over a longer term. And that's how it works. The cost of capital, time is money, and that will actually save us money in the future. And I see it'll increase the bond rating as the largest liability to a town is the pension. And I really think this is the best financial decision for the town in the long term. And we can't afford it right now. With the roof and everything else, we've still got $10 million in the fund.
I would again wholeheartedly disagree with this.
Okay.
Our pension liabilities have a plan. They're documented and they're planned out over the next 16 years to be fully funded. Had we done this plan in the past month and a half, we would actually have put that $1 million in and it would have turned into $300,000. Now, it is long-term. Our fund balance should be at 16%, not 0 to 8, 8 to 16. Our current fund balance that we've now taken out $900,000 is around 11.2. Based on a 16% and a $77 million budget, it should be about 12.3. If we are using our rainy day fund, and a hole in the roof is a rainy day option, for those options, it's less detrimental to our bond rating than utilizing $1 million to pay for pension liabilities that we are already targeted to completely pay for by 2041. Now, I would ask, in the OPEB and pension liability lines, the motion and what was approved by the council was to use 50% of any budgeted surplus and 10% of any budgeted, 10% for OPEB and 40% of budgeted surpluses. Okay, understood. The motion from the pension committee, as I remember it, was $300,000 even this year, next year, and 400 the year after. You only have 257,000.
Because there's also a school portion of that defined benefit. So the school funds the rest out of their budget.
Well,
So it
okay,
does
but we
total
fund the rest of it
300.
out of our budget. Do we get to the
Correct,
schools? Okay,
But it will
That's
be
fine.
300,000.
okay, perfect.
This also secures the next couple of years' payments, actually. So you don't have this burden next year.
It doesn't secure it. It changes our bond. It will affect our bond rating and cost us more money in the long term than we would save by putting this money in if we were to be dropped in our bond rating.
So just a question, why wouldn't it have affected it with the roof had we taken that out?
Because it's a rainy day fund and it's for unforeseen circumstances, which is why you have a rainy day fund. The pension is a liability, but it's not a rainy liability. We have a plan to fund the pension. We did not, on the school side, have a plan to replace that roof. So as a rainy day option, they look and say, okay, great. You had the money to do it because you prudently put money away to protect yourselves from those types of adverse happenings. What's happening with the pensions is structured to be paid for. And the bond council and the bond community look at it in that way.
We will have a balance though of $10.2 million.
Which is not 16%, which is what we should be at.
That's the maximum.
No, that is the standard federal government recommended amount we should be at. You're looking at what our plan is, what the federal government and what accounting agencies look at is 16% of our budgeted expenses. Ms. Gleason, question?
Well, the only question I have is, if the plan is fully funded, and was it the actuaries that told us that we needed to put the $1 million in? And if so, why?
The actuaries did not tell us we needed to put the money in. The pension committee,
pension
pension
committee
investment committee
decided that-
decided that they wanted to do it as a more level funded option rather than wider swings. So that rather than one year we have 4.5 million and the next year we have 6 million. They went to more of a level funding where we're going to be putting in a relatively level amount of 5 to 6 million each year rather than wide swings. That's where the level funding payment option comes from.
And your argument is the $1 million, even though it would be invested, would threaten the bond rating and is premature because this is going to all work out in 2041
Yes.
anyways.
And if we're talking about interest income of the $12 million that's currently in our fund balance, and we're going to take $1 million out of it, and we want to change our interest income line item to be higher, isn't that doing this? How are we going to get more interest income if we take the money out that we're not going to be able to build interest off of that? So we can't change that line item that we discussed on Monday night. Monday night, right? Sorry.
It's a day that ended in 1.
I want to get the pensions out of our hair as fast as possible, but I think this is a terrible idea and should be voted down. I can't express that strongly enough. We have spent the night talking about a lot of, and I'll bring up one that it gets frustrating sometimes sitting up here talking about dues, fees, $1,000 here, $8,000 here. Heck, when I started, I found $2,000 savings in toilet paper. Because one department was buying it at $95 a case and the other department was buying it at $33 a case. We discussed roughly $24,000 worth of dues and subscriptions. We had a $39 million budget discussion last night, and one of their line items is $248,000 of dues and subscriptions. But we just passed that by. The fact that we spend as much time as we did the past two nights on the town budgets, looking at small items, and we all just walked past right through the school budget is amazing to me. And it happens both on the council level, not that we can do a lot on the school budget, other than say, you know what, you wanted 39 million, we're gonna give you 38.5. That's basically all we can do. But even on the citizen input at school committee meetings, there's less scrutiny on a $40+ million budget there than there is on a line item of $13,000 here. It's frustrating. Sorry, off my soapbox. I still think it's a horrible idea to take $1 million out of the rainy day fund.
I think also a lot of the questions that new council members are asking, it may be, you know, silly as far as subscriptions or whatever, but it's just knowledge, you know? I mean,
I don't think it's
I
silly
don't
for you to ask the
know.
question, but I think it's silly that it's not asked across the board. That's all.
yeah, I mean, just
Mr. Grebe?
Ask one question to Mr. Rayner first. Mr. Rayner, what are you expecting as a surplus this year in our budget?
That's a good question.
I mean, when I was going through it, there is going to be a surplus for
Yeah,
sure.
We are anticipating a surplus. We have slowed down spending quite a bit. It's always a tricky question. I don't like to give an answer because then I get held to it and then I sit here and take shots below the waterline, if it's not the exact number, but I think we're looking at a high six-figure surplus this year, of which the council has been reiterated. 50% of that will go towards the OPEB and pension. So you are going to put a significant amount of money into the pension this year.
Mr. Grebe? You could have come up, stood there. It's okay.
Tom Grave, 110 Third Drive. Just for background, I'm the one that made the motion at the pension committee in order to put the 300, 300 and 400 in over the next 3 years. I did that for two reasons. One, we are going to get higher and higher ADC payments, are actuarially determined payments over the next number of years as our needs in the pension grow when people retire. That was the recommendation from the pension committee. It was the recommendation from the actuary that we add $1 million to the funds. The reason I made the suggestion that I did is because I was told that we were below the minimum, or taking $1 million out of the pension plan would take us below the minimum that our pension plan by ordinance, the 8% would be. It turns out that was not the case. Had I known that at the time, I would not have made the motion that I did. I would have made the motion to put the $1 million in from the fund balance immediately. Now, I've been on the other side of that, and I can tell you when Standard and Poor's, Moody's comes in, they don't ask you what you used the last amount of your fund balance for. They look at what the fund balance is. That's it. They don't care. We have a fund balance that meets our programs and plans. There is an ordinance that says we should not go over 16%. I will agree 100% with Mr. Hamilton. It's better to be at 16% than it is at 12, but it's not going to make a huge difference to our rating. And the fact that we were willing to take $1.7 million, over $1.7 million out of the fund balance for a roof that was a poor financial deal just shows that we are not looking at our finances properly.
Mr. Grieve, I would extremely disagree with that statement. I
Okay.
think we look at our finances quite well, which is reflected in our bond rating.
The decision or the recommendation for the 30-year roof was a bad financial decision. I can prove it 6 ways from Sunday. I thought I did it very eloquently when I was here at that time, and you agreed with me. You took the 20-year roof. Another 20 year, I'm not going to go through that. This is not going to hurt our bond rating any more than taking the money out for the 30-year roof would.
Okay, but we didn't take the money out for the 30-year roof.
That's correct,
and-
but it was suggested, and I assume somebody looked to see that it would not affect our bond rating, because nobody said when they were pushing the 30-year bond that it would affect our rating. So I'm assuming that we at least have people that would tell you that the bond rating would be affected if it would have been. So I'm going to assume that taking that money out was not going to affect the bond rating. Taking it out now is not going to either. But what it does is it takes money out of the fund balance, which is invested in cash and cash equivalent, which is like maybe 3.5%, 4%, maybe up to 4.5%. And it puts it into stocks and bonds where you can achieve a regular over 20-year period, which is what we're looking at here, a regular, easy 6.5% to 7%. That will make the money that we have grow faster. It's a better way to use the money. And the liability for our pension, in our pension is there. And that's another thing that the rating agencies look at. A lower, and this will get it down more quickly, but a lower liability for the pension is also something that the rating companies look at. Those are the two main things. What's your fund balance? What's your liabilities? And our biggest liability is the pension plan by far. So I think there are strong reasons to do it this way. You're looking at the guy that made the motion to do it the other way, only because I didn't know that we had a fund balance that is right now at the maximum.
It is actually below the maximum now, but yeah. And once we pass this budget, it'll be further below the 16%.
The 16% is always calculated on the previous year's budget. You can't do it any other way. That's $74 million. Okay, I've said enough, but this is not a bad, it's a very, very, very good financial decision to make, and I strongly urge you to do it.
I have sat up here for 18 years and we've taken, this is not for you, this is just in general, but I've sat up here for 18 years and we have taken our fund balance from roughly $6 to $7 million up to what it is at 12 now. We were originally, Mr. Fitzmaurice, since you were here as long as I've been, I think we were at 6 to 7% funded balance at one point, and now we're at 16% where we should be. And I think we should keep it there. I think utilizing this money is a poor financial decision, and I'll stick it at that. It's a council decision. But if you're going to do this, then we have to reverse the decision that we made before of the 3, 3, and 4. The other number that was thrown out at the pension committee meeting was 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And I said comfortably that we could fit in 3, 3, and 4 into the budget to do this.
Something that should be pointed out is when we were buying the roof, we got nothing back for that, nothing. This money's not disappearing. It's being reallocated to a real need the town has. And the other thing, that's what the bond
I would
companies look at. So it's
Disagree
not
that
going
we-
away. It's still in play.
Okay.
And we won't need to add as much the next time and over the future.
I would disagree that we're not getting anything back on the roof. We're getting warm, safe, and dry environment for our children to learn in.
You got
It's an
that, you got
investment.
that for the cheaper roof, the 20-year roof.
The 1.7 was a recommendation from the school department. It was brought to the council to decide which way to go. This council decided to go with the 20-year roof. It had nothing to do with anything else other than that. They wanted a 30-year roof because they thought it was sturdier for their equipment that's on the roof and that it would hold up better. That's it. This council said, you know, you can survive with a 20. To take more money out of the fund balance right now is a mistake. But I'm done preaching. There is a motion on the table to take $1 million out of the fund balance and move it into the pension fund. All those in
Just have
favor?
a question
Yep, let's do
before
it.
you go on. Mrs. McDowell, would you consider a lesser amount? Are you stuck on $1 million?
Why?
Why? It's just a leap of faith. It just seems like a lot of money to transfer. That's all.
Well, I did give you my reasons why. I mean, I believe that it is a good decision. And I don't think we'll be unhappy with that decision.
Ms. Mike?
For my knowledge base, who is the person who informs us about our bond rating and how different things affect us?
We have bond counsel and we also have a bond advisor. We talk to them regularly, but obviously there's no bond issue right now, so generally we only talk to them about once a year when we get the debt service report, which will be coming out in a couple months. So it's Steve Massaroni. I can't remember the bond counsel's name, but
That's okay. And had you spoken with them for the Portsmouth High School roof?
I didn't bring up the roof because I had talked to him before that about this possibility of moving the $1 million into the pension fund. He didn't advise for or against it. This happens whenever you talk to financial advisors. They will just tell you that it could. It may not, but it could. That's always a risk. It is there's no secret. Our fund balance is healthy. But we did just dip into it. I don't have a stake. I can follow Mr. Greaves' logic to a T. I can also follow Mr. Hamilton's logic. I thought going into this that the compromise was the 3-3-4.
Which was what was voted on by the pension advisory, correct?
Right.
That the pension advisory committee.
So I did, we are working on this assumption, but obviously that would come from the general fund. So I followed the logic. Let's not take it from the general fund. Let's take it from the fund balance. Either way, you're looking at putting a significant amount of money into the pension this year. We're going to, this aside, you're going to put 50% of the surplus, and we're looking at another significant surplus, potentially. 50% of that will be a portion between the fund balance and, or I'm sorry, the pension and the OPEB. And whatever you decide tonight, we're either going to put another 300,000 in, or we're going to put $1 million in. The town will survive either way. So I'm here to support what it is that you want to do, and I can certainly see the logic on both sides of this. But short answer to your question is Steve Massaroni doesn't have a dog in the fight. He said it's possible. And they do look at your liability. There's a lot of factors that go into, you know, a bond rating, but, and we do get periodic reviews, and it will be noticed that our bond, that our fund balance was depleted by us, could be argued a small amount, and they will want to know why. I
Thank you.
can't, you know, they'll want to know why.
Just another point here is that 300,000 that we have in the budget right now is on the tax levy. Just a reminder.
Spare? No, just light it on, okay. Any other questions, comments?
I just, I have a question. So 50% of the surplus will go towards the pension
40% will go pension, 10% will go OPEB.
and whatever we agree upon, whether it's the 300 or Mary's
But it-
motion.
Plus
It
the
would-
defined benefit
plus-
payments that are in the budget in the departments.
Right.
So you're gonna have three
Three
payments in.
If the council goes forward and pulls $1 million out of the fund balance, then we're gonna turn around and take this $300,000 out of the budget. But
It would be the million minus the 3 you have. You're not pulling out the full amount.
no,
What you had-
the
what-
motion,
No, but what you had listed there, it's only gonna change the budget by 700
no, it's gonna change the budget by 300,000.
or 300.
The motion was to take $1 million out of the fund balance and transfer it to the pension fund.
Right.
And correct me
And
if
that
I'm
goes-
wrong,
and
but
that
what
goes
Ms.
down by
McDowell is
300,000.
saying is we're then gonna not put the
That
300,000,
removes it from there. Yep.
takes it out
Okay.
of, well, 257 out of our budget and the 43 out of the school department's budget. Which we would then have to go back and change tonight to provisionally approve the entire budget.
But then would the school be still paying their,
No,
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 so
they-
then
we would just take that.
we would
they-
take that off.
But any kind of surplus that results from this year would end up in the fund balance, or could end up in it. We, right now, it's targeted for,
50% would end
50%.
up in the fund balance, 50% would go to OPEB and pension.
right,
So pick a high six-figure number, 800. 400 goes into the fund balance. I couldn't have picked 500 to make my math easier. Correct. So you would be adding, you would add, if the 257 and the 4 minus the 10% would be about 657. Numbers are getting past me now at 10:15. Mr. Grieve.
I'll do this quickly, but assuming we get a $400,000 contribution from the surplus to the pension, and you took, let's say, 600,000 out of the fund balance, then you can still take the $300,000 out of the budget for this year, the 300,000 for next year, and the 400,000 after that. And you would have the $1 million going in now, which is what the actuary suggested would be good for level funding. That will lower our taxes this year, lower our taxes next year and the year after. And it will increase the pension fund balance more quickly because it's in faster. If you wanted to make a compromise, and Mr. Hamilton is very good at these, you could do something like that, assuming around a $400,000 surplus, put 600 from the fund balance in instead of the $1 million. You get the $1 million in the next, 6 months. And you're off to the races, and you've saved all that money, and it's earning faster.
For the record, that 400 is a wild guess on my
I
part.
know, no, I understand. There's a risk there, and we don't know. But Mr. Rayner's been very,
He
very
is.
accurate in the past on telling us what's coming up. And I would say, if it's 700, we lost a little bit.
He
But
said high 6, so that's why I went 8.
okay,
I-
whatever. But I think you could do some, as long as we're having a surplus this year, that may be a way to make Mr. Gleason happy. It's not quite as much of a all in gamble. It's not a gamble at all, but because you're looking at 20 years. But it will also not only reduce the taxes, it's going to reduce what the future ARC payments for the pension are. So next year, not only will you not have the $300,000, but your ARC payment is likely to be lower than it would have been.
Probably not. It
Well,
may be, but I don't.
I'm not going to predict the stock market either.
Neither am I.
But that would be the trend, and that's the reason the actuary advised us to do this, to put the money in.
So with that, do you want to amend any motion, Mary? You're going to keep your motion or? What do you?
Well, if Mr. Hamilton wouldn't be as mad, maybe that would be,
I'm not mad. I'm not mad. It's got nothing to do with being mad. It's just,
okay.
I
I mean,
think
I
it's a risk
see
that we
that.
shouldn't take.
I see that. And I do believe we will have that surplus, just looking at the last monthly, report. And so I feel comfortable that there would be probably maybe 400, maybe more, I don't know, but that could go into the pension. So I'll revise my motion to, I move that we remove the OPEB and pension expenses from the other expenditures section of the FY 26 budget and fund these expenses by taking $600,000 from the fund balance instead.
Second.
Hang on. Who seconded it the first time? It was David. So she amended it. Can you second it? Thank you. All right, just for, yeah, that's all. You look like you want to say something, but you tried, but I didn't.
There is a part of me that sees the logic behind Mr. Greep's comment, and Mr. Greep, you can take a recording of this for me saying it. But I get, other than saying a huge Patrick Swayze ditto to everything that Keith has said, the council, we have, from a budgetary standpoint, we're still budgeting a contribution and have already passed action that would allow for us, which we already know, to make an additional contribution. I think that right now should help us get to where we're going to get to. And I think that is just, I think the word of the week for me is just prudent way of going about it versus, and I get, Mary, I actually wholeheartedly get what you're talking about and trying to get us to where we need to be faster, but we have a plan in place. And I think that right now, without having to have everyone just like kind of redo numbers, I think that we just have a prudent approach to be able to get to where we want to get to and have a plan that's been established and approved by various levels to get us there. And I would have to echo what Mr. President has said in rejecting this motion.
I also agree that we're all on the same page of wanting to get there. A rainy day fund is for emergencies. We do have a plan in place, both of budget and of using the surplus. I just don't think this is the right use of the money at this time, especially with having just done the high school roof. That's my opinion on it.
And I will make one more note in this discussion and then we can have a vote. If we put in the 300 this year and we do have a $400,000 surplus, we're at 700,000. We're just about at $1 million without taking any money out of the surplus. And next year we could say, you know what, we got close enough. We don't have to do the 3, 3, and 4. We can just keep adding in from the surpluses. But motion on the floor is to take $600,000 out of the fund balance, transfer it to the pension fund, and remove the $300,000, 257. We're just gonna leave the school department alone and give them an extra $43,000. It's 10:30. I guess that's probably prudent. Remove the 257, 163 out of the budget. The pension liability, I mean, the OPEB liability is separate than the pension liability line item. Right, so you're not saying take the 50,000 out, you just want to do the 257?
Well, because that's what they're saying, right?
The only, the pension, like,
Because of
the
the
OPEB, the OPEB is a separate line item to plus up the OPEB, which is the other post-employment benefits. The 300, 400, which is 257 in ours, but it's 43 on their side.
Yeah.
School side, so it's a 300, 300 is what you'd be taking out in the future budgets. The 50 would still stay for the OPEB. I just want to make it clear that we're all voting on the same thing. 50 stays.
I would say for the purposes of the clerk, we just make sure that we are, before we vote, have one clear motion.
The motion is to, it was a clear motion. The motion is to take 600 from the fund balance, put it into the pension fund and remove the 257.
Thank you.
163.
And that also saves on the taxes rather than putting the money.
That takes
and-
roughly, it takes it from 1338 down to 1334.
I'm just saying,
I'm
rather.
guessing, but that's my guess.
Right.
Yeah, we'll have to, yeah, it's probably about right. 1, 2.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 4-3 with Hamilton Blank and Piero in dissent. So we will be removing the 257, 163 from the other line. And sorry, but I can definitely not do that math in my head.
Okay, so.
If you can tell me what the bottom line number
Right,
is.
the bottom line number you're now going to approve is $115,000. That is the $50,000 in the OPEB line, $10,000 in the open space reserve, $40,000 in the capital reserve, and $15,000 in the town.
For the record, I could have done that. I was talking more about the bottom line.
Oh,
That's already been approved.
I know. All right, so approve all the other line items of the $50,000 for OPEB to provisionally approve the OPEB line at $50,000, the open space reserve at 10,000, the capital reserve at 40,000, and the town contingency of $15,000 to equal $115,000 provisionally.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Now, are we we have to change the
Right.
bottom line.
So what I would recommend at this point, Mr. President. At this point, you've reviewed and you've provisionally approved all the elements of the budget. However, there are sections of the budget you've asked us to revisit. And obviously, there's changes that are made tonight. What I would suggest is that you hold off from provisionally approving the bottom line. Let us present to you a clean revised budget with all the changes. And then you provisionally approve the budget at your next meeting on May 12th. And we've done that in the past.
Okay. Can you give us the report on, I know you're very conservative, Kayla, with the interest income. Interest income is going to change a little bit because we ripped 600 out.
We're looking at interest income. We've got all the notes here. There's been a
Right.
number of changes,
you're
the
gonna-
change into the IT fund. We have already started looking at the interest income and we are going to come back with a recommendation to increase that.
So on next Tuesday,
Correct.
you'll have all these answers
Yes,
and we'll have a agenda out on Wednesday.
correct.
I'm just going through this so everybody has the timeline of when you're gonna look at this stuff. And then we'll vote on a provisional budget on the 12th. It'll go on the paper that week or the following week, and then we'll have our financial town meeting on the 11th.
Yeah, in accordance with the calendar.
Correct?
I can't think anymore.
The 11th of June. It has to be advertised for 30 days so people can run
Right.
through it. Which would mean, did you hear the excitement in my voice? That we don't have a meeting tomorrow night. See, I told you we can get through this in 3
Yeah,
nights.
but you thought it was gonna be 10, sorry.
Well, I didn't know we were gonna go down the rabbit hole
I
of
know.
tensions.
Had I turned the lights on, it would have been midnight.
So you will have the information on Wednesday of what would happen if we increase the interest income a little bit, what it may or may not be at various interest rates. Kayla's gonna figure that out and give you a number if we can change that. No, surplus? No. I have no idea. That was a WAG. You know what that stands for, right? So future meetings will be May 12th here. And then it's not the 24th, is it? It's the 20, is that
No,
Memorial Day?
That was wrong.
So it's 27th, which is the Tuesday after Memorial Day. Do not come here at 7 o'clock on Memorial Day. Those are all being our next two meetings, and then we'll have the financial meeting on the 11th. Which is a Wednesday? Which would mean we have a council meeting on the 9th of June?
What was that? July 13th.
So regular scheduled council meetings, May 12th, 27th, which is a Tuesday, June 9th, which is a Monday, June 11th, which will be the budget hearing.
Budget hearing.
And then we'll be back here on the 23rd to hopefully
23rd.
pass a final budget, which is the town clerk's favorite night because she has to read the budget ordinance. 23rd of June. All right, we'll have a cake. Gluten-free, of course. You want to keep having birthdays. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Good night, everybody.